The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is one of the most tactical and eye-opening books ever written on power. How to gain it, maintain it, and protect yourself from those who wield it. In today's video, we'll break down Greene's masterpiece, revealing the hidden rules of power that shape the world around you, whether you realize it or not. To help you on your journey to power, grab the 48 Laws of Power Blueprint, a complete guide packed with summaries, historical stories, reflective questions, and exercises to help you implement each law. Plus, it includes detailed mind maps, split into 6 categories, so you can focus on the areas that matter most to you. Now, there's a lot to cover, so let's get started. Law 1. Never outshine the master. In 17th century France, Nicolas Fouquet was King Louis XIV's finance minister. When France's prime minister died, Fouquet saw an opportunity. He hoped to take his place. But instead of playing it smart, he made a fatal mistake. He tried too hard to impress the king. Fouquet hosted the most extravagant party France had ever seen at his Château de Vaux-le-Vicomte. It was a spectacle of wealth and power, but it backfired spectacularly. The party was so grand, so impressive, that instead of being flattered, King Louis XIV felt overshadowed. The next day, Fouquet was arrested, accused of embezzling state funds. The charges were largely false, but it didn't matter. The king had already made up his mind. Fouquet was sentenced to life in solitary confinement, spending his last 20 years in a prison cell high in the Pyrenees Mountains. Never make those above you feel inferior. Compliment them, support them, but never outshine them. Power is fragile. Threaten it once, and you may never recover. But what if you could use this law to secure power instead of losing it? That's exactly what Galileo Galilei did in the 1600s. He was one of the greatest scientific minds of his time. But like many scholars, he faced a constant problem: funding. He needed wealthy patrons to support his research. So, when he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he didn't just announce it. He strategically dedicated the discovery to the Medici family, whose royal symbol happened to be Jupiter. This flattery worked perfectly. The Medici saw Galileo's discovery as proof of their divine right to rule. In return, they rewarded him with a prestigious position as their official court mathematician and philosopher, securing his financial and political stability. 2 men. One ignored this law and lost everything, while the other mastered it and thrived. To apply this law, make your superiors feel secure. If your boss is insecure, don't flaunt your intelligence. Make them feel like the genius. Compliment their ideas, ask for their advice, and let them take credit when necessary. Flatter with strategy. Just like Galileo, align your achievements with your superiors' interests. Make them feel like your success is an extension of theirs. Know when to break the law. If your superior is a fading star, weak and losing influence, it may be time to subtly outshine them. Position yourself as the natural successor, but do it carefully. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. In the 9th century, Byzantine Emperor Michael III made a fatal mistake. He placed too much trust in a friend. Years earlier, while visiting the royal stables, a wild horse broke loose. A lowly stable hand named Basil risked his life to subdue the animal and save the emperor. Impressed by his courage, Michael elevated Basil from obscurity. He showered him with gifts, made him his closest advisor, and eventually promoted him to co-emperor. But power changes people. Basil was no longer satisfied playing the loyal friend. He wanted the throne, and one night, the same man who once saved Michael's life turned against him. He orchestrated Michael's assassination and seized the empire for himself. Friends can be unpredictable. They grow envious, entitled, and, when given too much power, often forget how they got there. Enemies, on the other hand, are far more predictable. They have something to prove, which makes them easier to manage. Just look at the Song dynasty. For centuries, ruling China was a death sentence. A bloody cycle kept repeating. A general would overthrow the emperor and take the throne. Fearing betrayal, he would execute his fellow generals. But soon, new generals would rise, overthrow him, and repeat the process. But then, in 960, a general named Zhao Kuangyin, later Emperor Taizu of the Song dynasty, did something different. Instead of executing his fellow generals, he invited them to a lavish banquet. There, he made them an offer. Retire in wealth and luxury, instead of living in constant fear of assassination. They agreed. And just like that, Emperor Taizu ended centuries of violent coups without shedding a drop of blood. His dynasty lasted over 300 years. Both Michael III and Emperor Taizu reveal a crucial truth. Power is not about loyalty, but about control. Friends, no matter how devoted, can turn on you when given too much power. Enemies, on the other hand, are already on guard, which makes them easier to manage. In fact, history shows that an enemy who becomes an ally is often more reliable than a friend. They know their past actions put them at risk, so they work harder to prove their loyalty. To apply this law, be wary of friends. They may appear loyal, but familiarity breeds entitlement, and entitlement breeds resentment. They rarely challenge you openly, but that doesn't mean they support you. Their betrayals are often sudden and unpredictable. Hiring friends can weaken your authority. They blur the line between personal and professional, making it hard to enforce discipline. Use enemies to your advantage. Enemies are valuable. If you have none, create them. A leader without opposition becomes blind to their weaknesses. They sharpen your focus, push you to be strategic, and give you a clear enemy to rally against. An open enemy is predictable. You know where they stand. But a hidden enemy, disguised as a friend, is far more dangerous. Loyalty is a myth. Strategy is everything. If you want power, stop relying on loyalty. Keep friends for friendship, but work with the skilled and competent, even if they were once your rivals. Because at the end of the day, a trusted friend can betray you in an instant, but a well-managed enemy will always behave exactly as expected. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. In the 19th century, Otto von Bismarck served in the Prussian parliament. At that time, many politicians wanted to go to war with Austria immediately, believing Prussia's army to be superior. But Bismarck knew two things. The king was against war, and Prussia wasn't ready. If he had revealed his true intentions, waiting until Prussia was fully prepared, he would have faced opposition from both the king and the public. So instead, he played a different game. He pretended to oppose war entirely. He praised Austria, condemned war as madness, and urged diplomacy. This deception bought him time, while he quietly strengthened Prussia's military. Then, when the moment was right, he struck. Prussia crushed Austria, unifying Germany under Prussian rule. As a result, Bismarck secured his position as Prussia's prime minister. Power comes from controlling what others know about you. If people can't predict your next move, they can't stop you. But if you reveal too much, you give them the chance to prepare against you. That's why the key to control is misdirection, leading people to believe one thing while you secretly pursue another. So how do you do it? Distract with false desires. Silence can be suspicious. If you refuse to share your thoughts, people will start guessing, and often, they'll guess correctly. Instead, talk openly, but about the wrong things. Bismarck didn't stay quiet. He distracted people with false ambitions. You can do the same. Express fake goals. Make misleading statements. Flood people with irrelevant details. This serves three purposes. You appear honest and trustworthy. You keep your real intentions hidden, and your rivals waste time chasing illusions. Use smoke screens. The best deception is hidden in plain sight. A friendly gesture, a harmless appearance, or even an air of humility can all be perfect smoke screens. People focus on what seems ordinary and unthreatening, never suspecting something deeper is happening. Appear weak and unthreatening. The most powerful figures in history mastered the art of being underestimated. If you seem dull, harmless, or incapable, people will stop watching closely. And when they least expect it, that's when you make your move. People instinctively believe what's in front of them. They assume words match actions. But if you can control what they see, you can control what they believe. In war, business, and life, the less they know, the more power you have. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Louis XIV was a master of controlled speech. Known for his cryptic, carefully chosen words, he kept courtiers guessing and second-guessing his intentions. The less he spoke, the more power he had. His silence created mystery and authority, forcing others to reveal their true thoughts, valuable information he could later exploit. Louis XIV understood a simple truth. When you speak less, you maintain control. If people don't know your position, they can't manipulate or oppose you. When you speak too much, the less in control you appear. You risk saying something foolish, or even worse, revealing your weaknesses. Even simple words, if vague or open-ended, will seem more important and powerful. So, how do you wield the power of silence? Make people reveal more about themselves. One of the most powerful effects of silence is that it makes people uncomfortable. When you stop talking, they feel the pressure to fill the space. And when they talk, they reveal more than they intended. Thoughts, intentions, and sometimes even weaknesses. People will hang on to your every word. When you talk less, people listen more carefully. Silence compels attention. They begin to interpret and analyze every word you say, often assigning more meaning to it than you intended. Once words are spoken, you can't take them back. Remember, words are powerful, but they also come with consequences. Once you've spoken them, you can't erase them. The more you speak, the higher the chance you'll say something foolish. For example, sarcasm may feel good in the moment, but it can backfire and damage relationships. The more you say, the less impressive you seem. When you try to impress people with your words, the opposite often happens. Even if your ideas are brilliant, speaking too much dilutes their impact. By saying less, you leave people curious about what you really mean. Your brevity gives your words an air of hidden wisdom, something they have to ponder. They'll respect you more for keeping them guessing. Saying too much can destroy you. In 454 before the Common Era, the Roman military hero Coriolanus was admired by all for his battlefield victories. But when he ran for Senate, his arrogance and constant talking turned people against him. The more he spoke, the more he alienated others. His reputation crumbled, and he was eventually banished from Rome. Coriolanus couldn't control his words, and it cost him everything. This shows that speaking too much can't only diminish your power, it can destroy it. Law 5, so much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. In Renaissance Italy, Cesare Borgia didn't just rely on military skill or strategy. His greatest weapon was his fearsome reputation. His cruelty was legendary, and he made sure people believed he would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. This image alone kept many rivals at bay. Borgia understood that perception can be as powerful as action. His reputation was both a shield, protecting him from betrayal, and a sword, intimidating enemies before they even challenged him. Your reputation is one of your greatest assets. People judge based on appearances long before they truly know you. A strong reputation acts as both a shield and a weapon, protecting you from scrutiny while amplifying your strengths, making you more influential. A well-crafted reputation commands respect, authority, and sometimes even fear. But once it's damaged, you become vulnerable, an easy target for those waiting to tear you down. At the start, you need to establish a reputation based on one standout quality, whether that's generosity, honesty, or cunning. This key trait will make you memorable and give others something to talk about. Once established, spread it far and wide, but build slowly and carefully, ensuring a solid foundation. But beware, once you've established your reputation, you must protect it at all costs. Anticipate attacks on it and be strategic in defending it. Here are 4 ways to safeguard and grow your reputation. First, never appear desperate. When your reputation is challenged, don't lash out emotionally. Doing so only shows insecurity. Instead, stay composed and don't engage in petty attacks. Desperation weakens your power, while calmness commands respect. Second, spread rumors about your rivals. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Attacking someone else's reputation can be a potent weapon, especially if you have less power than they do. The key is to subtly spread rumors to sow doubt. But don't seem petty or vengeful. The goal is to create suspicion, not to appear desperate. Third, don't go too far in attacking someone's reputation. While spreading rumors can be effective, don't overdo it. If you attack too aggressively, it may damage your own reputation more than your rivals. Fourth, use humor or gentle mockery. Once you have a strong reputation, you can use subtler tactics like humor or mockery. A clever, lighthearted jab at your rival can be incredibly effective, without resorting to harsh slander. Think of it like the lion toying with the mouse. You're in control, and your rival is on the defensive. Now let's imagine your reputation is tarnished. No worries, this isn't permanent. The key is strategic association. Align yourself with those who embody the image you want to project. J.P. Morgan, for example, improved his reputation by collecting art and associating with great artists like Rembrandt. His name became linked to cultural prestige, elevating his status. By surrounding yourself with respected persons, their reputation will rub off on you, helping to reshape your own. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. Thomas Edison knew that being a genius wasn't enough. You had to be seen. He wasn't just an inventor, he was a showman. He staged electrifying public demonstrations and made bold claims about future technologies, robots, thinking machines, things he never intended to build. But that didn't matter. The public was hooked. Meanwhile, his rival Nikola Tesla may have been the more brilliant scientist, but he lacked Edison's mastery of attention. And in the game of power, perception often beats reality. In 1915, rumors spread that Edison and Tesla would share the Nobel Prize. But when the committee approached him, Edison rejected the offer because accepting it would have placed Tesla's name alongside his. And to Edison, attention wasn't something to be shared. It was a resource to be controlled. Everything in life is judged by appearance. If no one sees you, you don't exist. Most people fade into the background, afraid to stand out, afraid to be noticed. But if you blend in, you're powerless. The solution is to become a magnet for attention. Stand out, appear larger, more intriguing, make them look. But no one is born knowing how to attract attention. It's a skill you must learn. Let's talk about 6 powerful strategies to ensure your name and ideas outshine the competition. First, attach your name to the sensational and the scandalous. If no one is paying attention to you, create a controversy. P.T. Barnum, the legendary showman, planted fake scandals about himself in newspapers because he knew that in the game of attention, even bad press is better than being ignored. However, use this tactic sparingly. Once you have the public's eye, constant controversy can backfire. But in the beginning, the quality of attention doesn't matter, only that you have it. Second, keep reinventing yourself. Attention is fleeting. If you don't evolve, people will get bored and move on. This is why pop stars constantly change their image. Reinvention keeps you fresh, unpredictable, and in demand. Third, be unpredictable. Predictability makes you invisible. People feel in control when they can predict your actions. Take that away from them and you gain power. Fourth, create an air of mystery. In a world where everything is overshared, mystery is irresistible. Never reveal everything at once. Leave people guessing. A little secrecy makes you fascinating. Mystery forces people to pay attention. They analyze your every move, trying to figure you out. And the more they wonder about you, the more you stay on their mind. Fifth, being attacked is better than being ignored. Most people fear criticism. They try to avoid controversy. Big mistake. Attention is power, and controversy fuels attention. Don't fear criticism. Use it. If they're attacking you, it means they're paying attention. Sixth, appear larger than life. People don't admire ordinary, they admire legends. Never downplay what makes you different. Amplify it, own it, Use it to your advantage. If you blend in, you disappear. If you stand out, you rise. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Thomas Edison, the so-called great inventor, built his legend not just on innovation, but on taking credit for others' work. In the late 1800s, Edison hired Nikola Tesla, a brilliant scientist, to improve his outdated electrical generators, promising him a $50,000 reward. But when Tesla completed the work, Edison laughed and told him, "You don't understand American humor." Tesla was furious. He quit and later developed alternating current, a superior electrical system. Tesla, though a genius, never played the game of power. He focused on invention, not influence. And in the end, he died penniless, while Edison became a legend. The world doesn't reward effort. It rewards visibility. It's not who works the hardest, but who claims the spotlight. Never do for yourself what others can do for you. Here's 4 reasons why. First, burnout is for the weak. If you try to do everything yourself, you'll burn out. But people admire those who seem effortlessly efficient, almost godlike in their abilities. Second, you don't have every skill. Use people who do. Even the most talented people have weaknesses. The solution? Find those who have the skills you lack and use them. Third, stand on the shoulders of giants. Some of history's most celebrated figures weren't original creators. They were brilliant borrowers. Shakespeare borrowed plots from older writers. Picasso copied techniques from other artists. Steve Jobs didn't invent the personal computer. He took existing ideas, improved them, and made them his own. The real genius isn't the one who creates from scratch. It's the one who knows what to take and how to use it. Fourth, sometimes sharing credit is the smartest move. Taking credit is crucial, but sometimes giving credit strategically can give you even more power. Take Henry Kissinger, the U.S. Secretary of State under Nixon. He was the mastermind behind America's historic negotiations with China. Kissinger understood a crucial truth. Sometimes letting others shine in the short term ensures you keep your influence in the long run. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. In 1600, during Japan's greatest civil war, Tokugawa Ieyasu, a patient and cunning warlord, faced Mitsunari Ishida, a powerful enemy. But instead of striking first, Ieyasu waited. He planted spies, spread false rumors, and bribed Ishida's allies, turning them against their leader. Slowly, Ishida's position crumbled from within. When Ishida finally launched an attack, his army was already weakened from internal betrayal and exhaustion. Ieyasu crushed him at the Battle of Sekigahara, securing his rule over Japan. Sun Tzu once said, "The clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him." Powerful people don't chase, they attract. They understand that making the first move often leads to mistakes. By waiting, observing, and luring others into action, they control the game. Here's how to make others come to you, on your terms. First, keep others reacting, never react yourself. The moment you react, you lose control. Instead of chasing opportunities or enemies, set the stage and force them to play by your rules. Create temptation and offer they can't refuse. Make them think they're in control until they've walked right into your trap. Stay calm. When they move out of desperation, you strike with precision. Second, bait your enemy. Then strike. People act out of greed, ego, or fear. Learn to exploit this. Greedy people dangle wealth. Arrogant people challenge their pride. Fearful people threaten their security. Third, control the battlefield. If you fight on someone else's terms, you lose. Always maneuver the battle onto your ground. Choose the setting. Let them come to your arena. Control the timing. Strike when they're vulnerable. Make them feel safe. Then take it all away. Fourth, exploit your opponent's weakness. Everyone has a flaw. Find it and press on it. Impatient people rush into traps. Prideful people refuse to back down. Desperate people make mistakes. The most powerful leaders don't fight battles head on. They manipulate emotions, create illusions, and make others destroy themselves. Fifth, master your emotions. Never act out of anger. Aggression feels powerful, but it makes you predictable. If you let rage control you, you're playing into someone else's hands. Remember, the calmest person in the room holds the most power. Patience forces others to make mistakes first. Emotional people are easily manipulated. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. In the 17th century, the Catholic Church insisted that the earth was the center of the universe. Challenging this belief meant risking persecution. Many tried to argue against the church and failed. But instead of openly arguing, Galileo played a smarter game. Instead of debating, he built telescopes and invited powerful figures to see the evidence for themselves. He didn't argue. He demonstrated. And once people saw the truth, they couldn't unsee it. Winning an argument might feel good in the moment, but the victory is an illusion. Sure, you might win the debate, but you stir up resentment, ego wounds, and lingering hostility. Instead of changing minds, you create silent enemies. As Balthazar Gracian put it, the truth is generally seen, rarely heard. Instead of proving a point, prove results. Actions persuade, words don't. Of course, there are moments when an argument can be useful, but not to prove you're right. Instead, use it strategically to confuse, deceive, or control the situation. Take Victor Lustig, the infamous con artist. He once sold a fake money printing box for $10,000. When the buyer realized he'd been scammed, he came back furious. Now, Lustig could have argued, he could have defended himself, but that would have made him look guilty. Instead, he played dumb. He acted shocked that the machine wasn't working, and even blamed the buyer for misusing it. Then, like a true manipulator, he offered to return the money, knowing full well he had already won the psychological battle. Here are 3 ways to win an argument without fighting. Feign ignorance. Act confused to shift the burden onto your opponent. Overwhelm with details. Use technical jargon to make them doubt themselves. Offer a fake solution. This makes your opponent feel like they've won, even when they haven't. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Some people don't just bring misfortune upon themselves. They spread it to everyone around them. Lola Montes was one of those people. A fiery Irish courtesan, she had a way of enchanting powerful men and ruining them. King Ludwig of Bavaria was one of her many victims. Unable to resist her charm, he showered her with wealth and influence. But her presence brought chaos. Protests erupted, Bavaria spiraled into crisis, and his people turned against him. By the time Ludwig realized the damage, it was too late. Forced to abdicate, he lost everything. He later admitted, "I was bewitched by her." Just as a disease spreads from person to person, so do emotions, mindsets, and misfortunes. Some people radiate negativity, and if you let them into your life, their chaos becomes your chaos. The unfortunate often draw misfortune onto themselves, and they will pull you down with them. They come in different forms, but the signs are clear. Drama follows them everywhere. Broken relationships, ruined careers, endless complaints. They drain your energy. No matter what you do, they're never satisfied. They're always the victim. Nothing is ever their fault. They live in crisis mode. Constant instability, bad decisions, and self-sabotage. They pull you into their problems, whether through guilt, manipulation, or sheer emotional weight. So when you encounter one, just run. Don't argue with them. Don't try to help them. And never introduce them to your friends. You'll only spread the infection. Some people can't be saved, and trying will only bring you down. Instead of wasting energy on the wrong people, focus on surrounding yourself with the right ones. If toxic people drain you, then positive people do the opposite. They uplift you, inspire you, and make success feel effortless. Here's how to improve your life through the right associations. If you're naturally anxious, befriend those who are calm and grounded. If you're often pessimistic, surround yourself with optimists. If you tend to isolate yourself, connect with the socially confident. Your mindset is shaped by those around you. So choose wisely. Stay away from the infected and instead align yourself with the fortunate, the happy, and the strong. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. In the early 1600s, King Louis XIII of France was in a difficult position. He was young, inexperienced, and overshadowed by his mother, Marie de Medici, who ruled as regent. The country was in turmoil. Nobles rebelled, enemies loomed, and the king lacked control. Enter Cardinal Richelieu, a brilliant strategist and political mastermind. At first, he was just an advisor. Rather than overpowering the king, he quietly wove himself into every critical decision. He handled foreign policy, crushed noble uprisings, and orchestrated military campaigns, all in the king's name. Louis XIII may have worn the crown, but Richelieu was the one truly ruling France. And yet, the cardinal was careful. He never taught Louis too much. The king remained dependent on his guidance, unable to function without him. If people rely on you for their success, their security, or their happiness, they will never let you go. The more they depend on you, the more control you have. But if they realize they can function without you, you become disposable. So, here are 10 ways to make yourself indispensable. Seek out weak leaders. Powerful rulers don't need you, but weak ones do. Align yourself with those in power who lack direction or strength. Become their missing piece. Make people think they need you. True power is subtle. It's about making people believe they can't function without you. Subtly create dependence, so they think losing you would be a disaster. Immerse yourself in their work. The more a leader relies on your expertise, the harder it becomes to replace you. Handle complex tasks only you understand. Possess an irreplaceable skill. If you offer something unique, whether it's a rare talent, deep knowledge, or specialized skill, people will hesitate to cut you out. Make yourself impossible to replace. Always have other options. When people know you have alternatives, they will fight to keep you. Never rely on just one source of power. Keep a backup plan. Appear to have specialized knowledge. Sometimes perception is more powerful than reality. Maintain an air of expertise so that others believe they can't function without you, even if your knowledge isn't as deep as they think. Wrap yourself around the source of power. Weave yourself so deeply into key figures and systems that removing you would cause disruption. If cutting you out creates more problems than keeping you, you become too valuable to lose. Use secret intelligence. Knowing people's secrets makes you invaluable, but also dangerous. This is a double-edged sword. Use it wisely or paranoia may turn against you. Don't expect love, expect fear. People who depend on you don't have to like you. They just have to fear losing you. Love is fleeting, but the fear of loss is powerful. Create mutual dependency. The best position is one of shared reliance. They need you, but you also have some level of control over them. This way, you stay in control without bearing the full weight of leadership. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. For 10 years, the Greeks failed to conquer Troy. The city's massive walls and skilled warriors made it impenetrable. Every attack was repelled. Every strategy failed. But instead of brute force, the Greeks turned to deception. One day, they vanished. Their ships gone, their camps abandoned. In their place stood a massive wooden horse, left as a supposed gift to the gods. Some warned that it was a trap, but blinded by pride, the Trojans believed it was an offering of surrender. They dragged it inside their walls, celebrating their victory. That night, Greek warriors, hidden inside the horse, crept out and opened the city gates. The Greek army, waiting nearby, stormed in, destroying the city in hours. Troy, which had withstood a decade of war, fell, not by force, but by a well-placed act of apparent generosity. People are naturally suspicious, always on guard for deception. But ironically, This makes a well-placed act of honesty even more powerful. When someone appears sincere, especially when it's unexpected, it catches others off guard. This is called selective honesty. Gain trust early, and people will overlook or rationalize any deception that follows. Here are 7 ways to make honesty your ultimate weapon to disarm anyone. Appear honest at the right moment. A well-timed display of sincerity makes people drop their defenses. Even if you've been dishonest before, one act of apparent honesty can erase doubts. Give before you take. People expect hidden motives, but a gift, whether it's a favor, an apology, or a confession, softens their defenses. It makes them more likely to trust you when it matters. First impressions matter. If you establish yourself as trustworthy from the beginning, people will cling to that belief, even when evidence suggests otherwise. Build a reputation for honesty. The more consistently honest you appear, the easier it is to deceive when necessary. People rarely question those with a clean track record. A gift is the perfect distraction. Gifts trigger gratitude, which blinds people to ulterior motives. Many leaders have used lavish gestures to make enemies overlook the real power play. Be careful. It must feel genuine. False sincerity is dangerous. If someone sees through your act, their disappointment will turn into hatred. A poorly executed attempt at selective honesty will destroy trust forever. So if you can't make it convincing, don't use it at all. When deception is expected, own it. If you already have a reputation for dishonesty, suddenly acting generous or sincere will only raise suspicion. In that case, embrace your rogue nature. Sometimes people admire honesty and dishonesty more than a forced attempt at virtue. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy. Christopher Columbus had a dream to find a western sea route to Asia, but there was a problem. No one wanted to fund it. For years, European rulers rejected his plan, calling it too risky, too expensive, and too unrealistic. But Columbus refused to give up. He set his sights on Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain, and this time, he changed his approach. Instead of talking about exploration, he appealed to their self-interest. He promised them that a new route would make Spain richer than Portugal and expand their empire with gold and spices. The promise of wealth and power was too tempting to ignore. Isabella agreed to fund the voyage, not for Columbus, but because she saw an opportunity to make Spain the most powerful empire on earth. And so in 1492, Columbus set sail. When you need something, don't expect people to help out of kindness, morality, or gratitude. That's not how human nature works. Most people are too absorbed in their own needs to feel obligated to return a favor. So if you want a yes, don't ask them to care about your problem. Show them how saying yes solves theirs. People aren't moved by generosity. They're moved by self-interest. When making your appeal, don't bring up the past. Just because someone owes you one doesn't mean they'll pay you back. In fact, people often resent feeling obligated. Instead of guilt-tripping them, make it clear why helping you serves their interests today. Don't assume people care about your problems. Your struggles might feel huge to you, but to others, they're just background noise. If your appeal is based on emotion, morality, or sympathy, people will ignore you. Instead, shift the focus. How does helping you make their life easier, better, or more profitable? Show how you can solve their problems. People help when they see you as useful, but if they see you as a burden, they'll avoid you. So, before you ask for anything, put yourself in their shoes. What do they get out of this? For example, if they're motivated by profit, show them how helping you can increase their wealth, influence, or status. Appeal to the ego. Some people do enjoy giving, but not out of kindness. They do it for the status, the admiration, the superiority. These are the people who love public acts of generosity. The more public, the better. So if you need their help, stroke their ego. They'll be dying to fund your project or introduce you to powerful people, as long as the world is watching. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Catherine de' Medici, the powerful Queen of France, always knew what was happening before anyone else did. But she didn't rely on rumors. She built a secret network of spies. Her most effective spies were servants, maids, cooks, valets, people who blended into the background, overhearing whispers, reading discarded letters, and reporting everything back to her. She used this information to manipulate the court, crush her enemies, and control the throne. When nobles plotted against her, she knew before they could act. When alliances shifted, she adjusted her strategy accordingly. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more control you have. But the best spies don't hire informants. They gather information themselves, without anyone realizing it. To do so, pose as a friend. People lower their guard when they believe you genuinely like them. They talk freely, exposing secrets, plans, and weaknesses, without even realizing it. And once you have that information, you hold the upper hand. Here's how to do it effectively. Let others do the talking. People love talking about themselves. Stay quiet, ask the right questions, and they'll reveal everything, thinking you're just a great listener. Control your own words. The more you talk, the more you reveal. Great spies listen more, speak less. Use social settings to your advantage. People drop their guard at parties, dinners, and casual meetups. Observe interactions. Who trusts who? Who's hiding something? Who's nervous? Information is everywhere if you pay attention. Trigger emotional reactions. To uncover hidden motives, subtly challenge someone. When people get emotional, they stop thinking clearly and they reveal more than they should. The false confession trick. If you want someone to open up, share a secret of your own, real or fake. People instinctively reciprocate, revealing their own secrets in return. This also tests their character. Will they keep your secret or will they run their mouth? Spread false information. Just as others might spy on you, you need to stay ahead of the game. By feeding disinformation, you mislead rivals, making them waste time and make mistakes. However, spying comes with risks. If people suspect you, they'll shut you out, or worse, turn against you. Here's how to avoid getting caught. Don't ask too many direct questions. It makes people suspicious. Don't spy too aggressively. If you seem too eager, people notice. Don't forget, you might be spied on too. Always protect your own secrets. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Carthage was once a powerful empire, dominating trade across the Mediterranean. But Rome had already defeated them twice, and yet they still remained a threat. The Romans knew one thing. If they left Carthage standing, it would rise again. So in 149 before the Common Era, Rome decided to end the rivalry once and for all. Led by Scipio Aemilianus, Rome launched the Third Punic War with one goal: total annihilation. Carthage fought back, resisting for years under siege. But when the Romans finally breached the city walls, there was no mercy. They burned the city to the ground, erased it from the map, and ensured it would never challenge them again. Many enemies don't disappear. They retreat, waiting for the right moment to strike back. That's why when you move against an enemy, you must finish the job. But crushing doesn't always mean physical destruction. It means making sure they can never threaten you again. Here's how to do it effectively. Never show sympathy. Enemies see mercy as weakness. If you give them time to recover, they will strike back when you least expect it. Don't leave room for negotiation. A cornered enemy with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind. If you can't eliminate them, cut them off completely. No deals, no second chances. Some enemies will act friendly for now, waiting for an opportunity to destroy you later. Don't fall for it. Beware of former friends turned enemies. A former ally knows your weaknesses. They might smile in your face, but deep down, resentment lingers. An enemy left alive is like a wounded viper. You might nurse it back to health, but one day it will bite you. Let them destroy themselves. Crushing an enemy entirely can sometimes backfire, turning them into a martyr. Instead, give them a way out. one that leads to their own downfall. Take away their power, their allies, their influence. Give them nothing to fight with, no hope to cling to. If done right, they will collapse under their own humiliation without you lifting another finger. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't just a military genius. He was a master of perception. One of his most brilliant moves wasn't on the battlefield, but in the minds of the people. In 1799, after his Egyptian campaign, Napoleon returned to France, but instead of making a grand entrance, he disappeared from the public eye. He let rumors spread, leaving people wondering, where is Napoleon? What is he planning? The mystery made him even more powerful. When he finally re-emerged, it was with a dramatic coup d'etat. By then, the public had idealized him so much that they welcomed him as a savior. Ever notice how things become more desirable when they're rare? If something is always available, we take it for granted. But when it disappears, we realize its value. The same applies to your presence. When you're always around, people get used to you and you fade into the background. But if you withdraw at the right moment, you create demand for your return. By making yourself scarce, you create mystery, desire, and respect. To use absence to your advantage, remember that timing is everything. This law only works if you've already established your presence. Early on, make an impact. Be unforgettable. Command attention and establish your presence. Because if you vanish too early, you don't increase your value. You just disappear. Withdraw before people push you away. Too much presence makes people take you for granted. Leave before they grow tired of you. Create demand by disappearing. When you're gone, people will feel your absence. They'll wonder about you. They'll want you back. Return at the right moment. When you come back, it should feel like a resurrection. Your absence will have increased your value. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. In the 1970s, Richard Nixon faced a challenge, the Vietnam War. To withdraw without appearing weak, he used the madman theory, making enemies believe he was reckless and capable of anything. He spread rumors of possible nuclear escalation and, in 1972, ordered massive bombings in North Vietnam, while hinting to the Soviets that if peace talks didn't progress, things could spiral out of control. By making himself unpredictable, he forced his enemies to hesitate, giving him leverage at the negotiating table. Humans crave patterns. We look for habits, routines, and anything familiar. The moment you become predictable, you're vulnerable. Others can anticipate and counter your every move. Unpredictability, on the other hand, forces people to react on your terms. As your actions have no clear pattern, people become confused, off balance, and even intimidated. They waste energy trying to anticipate your next move, only to be caught off guard. Here's how to use unpredictability to keep the advantage. Break your patterns. If people always know what to expect from you, they will control you. Change your behavior, shift strategies, and keep them guessing. Strike when they least expect it. Surprise is a weapon. When you act without warning, others freeze, giving you control. Keep opponents unsettled. Confusion leads to mistakes. The more they struggle to predict you, the more power you have over them. Use predictability as a trap. Sometimes act in a predictable way, just long enough for others to let their guard down. Then, suddenly break the pattern and catch them off guard. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, was a man of immense power. He built the Great Wall and centralized his empire. But despite his achievements, he had one fatal flaw: paranoia. As time passed, his fear of betrayal grew. He began to suspect his ministers, his family, everyone. To protect himself, he withdrew, building a massive palace and sealing himself off from the outside world. But this isolation came at a cost. Cut off from his people, he lost touch with reality and had no idea how much resentment was brewing outside his walls. By the time he realized, it was too late. The walls he built for protection had become his prison. The world is dangerous. Enemies exist. It's natural to want security. But withdrawing too much doesn't make you safer. It makes you weaker. Here's why. You lose access to power. Information, influence, and opportunity come from people. When you cut yourself off, you cut off your lifeline. You lose awareness of threats. The world moves on without you. If you're isolated, you won't hear what's happening, including the dangers forming against you. You lose perspective. Alone, small problems feel massive. You start fearing the wrong things and ignoring the real threats. You become trapped. The longer you isolate, the harder it is to re-enter society. Your world shrinks and your options disappear. You become an easy target. In strategy, stillness invites attack. When enemies know exactly where you are, they know exactly where to strike. If isolation leads to weakness, then what's the alternative? The solution is to apply the opposite strategy. Take Louis XIV, for example. He understood a simple truth. A leader who hides is a leader who loses power. Instead of hiding, he placed himself at the center of everything. He built the Grand Palace of Versailles, not to withdraw, but to surround himself with his nobility, keeping them close where he could watch them. He stayed visible, involved, and aware. No plot could form without him hearing about it first. For over 50 years, Louis XIV maintained his rule because he never disappeared. Here's how to place yourself at the center of activity. Be where the action is. Stay involved in conversations, networks, and decisions. Keep your ear to the ground. Don't rely on a small circle. If you only hear from a handful of people, you lose perspective. Expand your network. Avoid paranoia, but don't be blind. If you retreat too much, you make yourself an easy target. Stay connected so threats never catch you off guard. Be fluid, always moving. Just like in warfare, a moving target is harder to hit. Mix with different groups, shift environments, and keep your enemies guessing. The more you engage, the harder it is for others to isolate or attack you. The more you hide, the easier you are to control. Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. In the early days of Soviet Russia, Joseph Stalin and Nikolai Bukharin were two prominent figures within the Communist Party. After Lenin's death, Stalin rose to power with the help of Nikolai Bukharin, who failed to see the danger in supporting him. But Stalin had no such blind spots. He saw Bukharin as a future threat. When the time was right, Stalin turned on him. In 1936, Stalin accused Bukharin of treason and had him arrested. Despite his desperate attempts to defend himself, he was executed in 1938. Not everyone reacts to offense the same way. Some people will forgive and move on. Others will remember it for life. And if you offend the wrong person, no strategy can save you. The key to survival is knowing who you're dealing with before you act. Here are 5 types of dangerous people you should never offend. The arrogant and proud man. At first, he may seem friendly, even charming, but his ego is fragile. The slightest insult, even unintentional, will turn him into a relentless enemy. And his revenge won't be measured or rational. It will be extreme, obsessive, and destructive. The hopelessly insecure man. Unlike the arrogant and proud man, this one won't explode in anger. He'll simmer. His ego is built on shaky ground. He doesn't lash out immediately. Instead, he holds grudges, undermines you subtly, and slowly drains you over time. You won't see the damage at first, but by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. If you offend this type, disappear. He won't attack head-on, but he will make sure you suffer. Mr. Suspicion, this man sees enemies everywhere. Even when there's no threat, he assumes the worst. At best, you can manipulate his paranoia to turn him against others. If you become his target, leave. You will never convince him you mean no harm. He will watch, plot, and obsess over your downfall. If you become his target, leave. You will never convince him you mean no harm. The serpent with a long memory. Unlike the others, this man doesn't react emotionally. He doesn't explode in anger or act impulsively. Instead, he waits. If you cross him, he won't forget. He will play along, smile, pretend nothing happened, but years later, when you least expect it, he will strike, and it will be cold, calculated, and devastating. If you have somehow injured him, you have two options: crush him completely, leave no room for revenge, get far away before he gets his chance. The plain, unassuming, and unintelligent man. This one isn't dangerous in the traditional sense. He won't seek revenge, but he will waste your time, energy, and resources. He doesn't play the game because he doesn't even understand the game. If you try to manipulate him, he will slow you down, make mistakes, and ruin your plans. Test him first. Tell him a joke. If he takes it literally, be careful. You're dealing with someone who won't help you. Or worse, someone who will unknowingly destroy your strategy. So before you make a move, analyze the people around you. A single mistake can turn an invisible enemy into a lifelong threat. Here are 5 rules for avoiding the wrong enemy. Never rely on instincts alone. Your gut feeling is not enough. Study people. Observe their actions, habits, and reactions. Never trust appearances. A kind smile can hide a vengeful heart. A loud, aggressive person might actually be a coward. Judge people by their actions, not their words. Reject people politely. Today's weak person might be tomorrow's powerful rival. A small insult today can turn into a lifelong vendetta. Test people before offending them. Some people's insecurity and ego fragility cannot tolerate the slightest offense. Make a small joke at their expense. A confident person will laugh. An insecure one will take offense immediately. That's your warning sign. Never insult just for the sake of it. Some people cannot let go of an offense. If you don't need to make an enemy, don't. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. Queen Elizabeth I ruled England during a time of war and political tension, yet she remained in control without ever marrying. In an era when marriage was a political weapon, she turned it into her greatest advantage. For decades, she played a delicate game of diplomacy, keeping European powers like France and Spain competing for her hand. Every proposal was an opportunity, a way to negotiate peace, form alliances, or keep enemies off balance. But she never said yes. By never committing, she kept control, remained free, and England remained powerful. When you refuse to tie yourself down, you stay unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Indeed, once people know where you stand, they can control or counter you. But if they're unsure, they must chase, adapt, and react, which gives you the upper hand. Here's why you should be careful before committing. Be courted by all. Commit to none. If people believe they possess you, they take you for granted. But if you stay just out of reach, they fight for your attention. Desire is contagious. If people see that others want you, they will want you too. But the moment you commit, the magic disappears. You become ordinary, predictable, and, most dangerously, trapped. Keep them wanting more. Stay valuable by never giving yourself away completely. The aura of power that grows with time. The less available you are, the more people respect and desire you. Never discourage someone's hopes, but never fully yield either. Let them chase. People admire those who stand apart, who refuse to be owned. The more independent you seem, the more others will try to be the one who finally wins you over. Stay above the fray. Do not get pulled into battles. People will try to drag you into their conflicts. The second you take a side, you create enemies. Instead, be the wise observer. Let others exhaust themselves in their battles, while you remain neutral. When they're weak, you step in, not as a fighter, but as a mediator. This way, you gain influence without ever becoming a target. And watch out. Those who want to control you will use gifts, favors, and fake loyalty to tie you down. Accept if it benefits you, but never feel indebted. Master your emotions. Never let attachment trap you. Emotional commitment is dangerous. Once you attach yourself to someone else's problems, you become responsible for them. People will guilt trip you, manipulate you, and make you feel obligated. But their burdens are not your burdens. Show concern, offer small gestures, but keep your true emotions detached. Your time and energy are limited, and every moment wasted on someone else's drama weakens your own position. But be careful, this law has limits. If you play too many sides against each other, they may see through your game and turn against you. If you make people wait too long, desire turns to frustration, then resentment. Sometimes temporary commitment is a strategy. If aligning with someone benefits you, do it. But always keep an exit plan. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Otto von Bismarck, when dealing with political opponents, often played the fool. He would act clumsy, ramble, even pretend to be drunk in diplomatic meetings. His enemies dismissed him as a harmless, not worth worrying about. But behind the scenes, Bismarck was meticulously planning his moves. In 1866, he provoked Austria into a war they thought they could easily win. Overconfident, they walked right into his trap and suffered a crushing defeat. No one likes feeling outsmarted. If you make someone feel less intelligent, they'll resent you. But if you make them feel smarter, they'll drop their guard, never suspecting that you're the one in control. The key to power isn't proving you're the smartest person in the room, it's making others believe they are. When someone sees you as naive or incompetent, they lower their guard, reveal information they wouldn't otherwise share, underestimate your ambitions, trust you because you make them feel good about themselves. Meanwhile, as they bask in their own superiority, you observe, learn, and wait for the perfect moment to strike. Now here's how to appear dumber than you are. Never openly challenge someone's intelligence. People hate feeling outshined. Instead, subtly reassure them of their own brilliance. Make self-deprecating remarks. Act unsure. Let them teach you. It feeds their ego. The more they believe in their own superiority, the less they'll suspect you. Ask simple, even obvious questions. This makes them feel superior and keeps them talking, often revealing more than they should. Play the likable fool. People don't compete with fools. They keep them around as harmless company. Stay underestimated. If they think you're incapable of deception, they'll never see your moves coming. The goal is to make people feel more sophisticated than you. Once their guard is down, their secrets become yours. But while downplaying your intelligence is generally the best strategy, there are sometimes exceptions. When you need credibility. If you're trying to establish authority, a display of intelligence can work in your favor. When you're in trouble. Sometimes proving competence can get you out of a tough situation. At the start of your rise, you can't play too dumb early on. Your superiors need to see you as capable, but not so much that you become a threat. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. During the Chinese Civil War, Mao Zedong faced certain defeat against Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists. But rather than fight a hopeless battle, Mao used retreat as a weapon. In 1934, Mao led the Long March, a strategic withdrawal that preserved his forces, built alliances, and strengthened his position. Meanwhile, the nationalists wasted resources chasing him. Mao's forces grew stronger. By 1949, Mao emerged victorious, founding the People's Republic of China. What seemed like surrender was actually a setup for victory. When you're weak, never fight for honor's sake. Choose surrender instead. Fighting a losing battle only drains your energy and strengthens your opponent. While surrender buys you time, it allows you to recover, observe, and wait for a future counterattack. Some think surrender is weakness. In reality, it's a tactical advantage. Here's why. Fighting when you're weak is pointless. No amount of pride will change the outcome. No one saves the weak. People don't risk their own position to help a losing cause. Resistance invites total destruction. If you're alone and outmatched, submission is sometimes the only way to survive. Martyrdom doesn't bring victory. Dying for a cause means you're no longer around to fight for it. Surrender buys you time. Time to recover, learn, and plot your revenge. It lulls your enemy into complacency. They assume you're defeated and stop seeing you as a threat. It disguises your ambition. While they let their guard down, you prepare. Surrender conceals great power. It positions you for a comeback. When the enemy is weakest, that's when you strike. Surrender isn't about giving up, it's about infiltration. It allows you to get close to your enemy, study their weaknesses, and quietly position yourself for the perfect counterattack. But be careful. Surrender is only useful if it leads to long-term victory. If your enemy never gives you an opening, surrender alone won't save you. And in rare cases, martyrdom may be the only way to inspire future resistance. Law 23, concentrate your forces. In the chaotic oil industry of the late 19th century, dozens of small companies fought for dominance. Most failed because they spread themselves too thin, trying to do too much at once. But John D. Rockefeller took a different approach. He concentrated his forces. Instead of diversifying, Rockefeller focused all his energy on refining oil. He systematically bought out competitors, sometimes using ruthless tactics, and consolidated power under Standard Oil. He didn't just refine oil, he controlled everything: refining, transportation, and distribution. By the 1880s, Standard Oil dominated 90% of the US market. Rockefeller's success wasn't about doing everything. It was about doing one thing better than anyone else. History proves this again and again. Ancient Athens overextended itself in distant wars and lost its empire. The Roman Empire stretched too far, making itself vulnerable to invasion. Napoleon tried to conquer too many lands at once and lost everything. Success is rarely achieved alone. To rise, you must align yourself with a powerful force, a mentor, an institution, or an industry leader who can fuel your growth. In any organization, true power is concentrated in a few hands, but it's not always the people with fancy titles. The real decision makers often operate behind the scenes. If you want to rise, you must learn who truly pulls the strings and get close to them. Once you find your source of power, don't scatter your energy chasing too many goals. You can't hit two targets with one arrow. If your mind is divided, your impact is weak. Focus all your energy on one powerful strike. While focus is powerful, it must be applied wisely, because there are two dangers. First, if you're up against a stronger opponent, concentration makes you an easy target. When outmatched, it's better to stay fluid and unpredictable, rather than presenting yourself as a direct threat. Second, tying yourself to one source of power can be dangerous. If your industry collapses, you fall with them. Therefore, always have a backup plan. Even as you focus, keep secondary options open to maintain flexibility. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. Baldassare Castiglione, an Italian diplomat and author, outlined the art of influence in his book, The Book of the Courtier, where he described the ideal courtier, not a ruler, not a soldier, but someone who wielded power indirectly. He knew that success in royal courts wasn't just about intelligence or strength, it was about influence. He pleased without seeming desperate, influenced without offending, and navigated politics with grace. He never demanded authority, yet he secured influence that lasted for years. Back then, royal courts existed to glorify rulers and keep the nobility close. But make no mistake, court politics didn't disappear. Today, the court exists in boardrooms, government offices, and social circles. Wherever power exists, courtiers thrive. And those who master the courtier's skills rise, while those who ignore them fall. So if you want to thrive in power, you must think like a courtier. Here are the 16 golden rules that courtiers follow. Please, but not too much. Over-flattery makes people suspicion. Obey, but distinguish yourself. Show value without threatening authority. Never make the ruler insecure. Always make them feel in control. Master the art of manipulation. Influence without being obvious. Let them shine. Make the king feel kingly. Make others fear your power. People respect those who seem powerful. Appearances are everything. Perception matters more than reality. Charm is a weapon. Be gracious and polite. Strike indirectly. Hide your aggression behind politeness. Choose your words carefully. Never say more than necessary. Words are tools. Use them well. Turn a compliment or an insult into an opportunity. Be a source of pleasure. People are drawn to those who make them feel good. Dignity is power. Never humiliate yourself. Build influence, not enemies. A strong network is the key to survival. Win the ruler's favor. This gives you protection against attacks, control from the shadows. The perfect courtier often becomes more powerful than the ruler himself. But beyond tactics, true courtiers understand the deeper rules of power, rules that separate those who rise from those who fall. Avoid ostentation. Drawing too much attention breeds envy. Practice nonchalance. Make your skills seem effortless. Never let them see you sweat. Be frugal with flattery. Too much loses value. Arrange to be noticed, but subtly. Stand out, but never too boldly. Your presence should feel natural, not forced. Mirror others' styles. Alter your style and language. According to the person you are dealing with, people trust those who reflect their values. Never be the bearer of bad news. The messenger is always killed. Let someone else take the fall. Never act overly familiar with your superiors. They don't want a friend and a subordinate. Never criticize those above you directly. If you must, frame it as insight, not attack. Be selective with requests. Asking for too much weakens your position. Never joke about status or taste. Pride is fragile. Avoid being the cynic. Constant negativity makes you a target. Be self-aware. Observe how others perceive you and adjust your behavior accordingly. Master your emotions. If you don't control them, others will use them against you. Fit the spirit of the times. Outdated attitudes and styles make you look foolish or irrelevant. Make people enjoy your presence. If you can't be the ruler's favorite, at least be enjoyable company. Courtiers don't rule by force. They rule through perception. They shape how they're seen, influence decisions behind the scenes, and make themselves indispensable. And in a world where perception is power, the ability to control yours is the ultimate advantage. Law 25, recreate yourself. Napoleon Bonaparte rose from a young officer to a revolutionary hero, then crowned himself emperor in 1804, declaring his power came from no one but himself. Even in exile, he controlled his image. After being sent to Elba in 1814, when most believed his story was over, he staged a dramatic comeback. In the 100 Days, he marched toward Paris, daring soldiers to shoot their former emperor. Instead, they rallied behind him. He wasn't just a fallen leader, he was a legend reborn. Even after Waterloo and exile to St. Helena, he shaped his legacy through memoirs, portraying himself as a betrayed martyr rather than a defeated ruler. In the game of power, your identity is either your greatest tool or your greatest trap. The world will try to define you, to box you into a role, and once you accept it, you become predictable. And predictability is weakness, but power belongs to those who refuse to be defined. Those who shape themselves, rewrite their own story, adapt to the moment, and decide who they will become. So, if you want to reinvent yourself and take control of your identity, follow these principles. Master yourself. Before you can shape how the world sees you, you must first understand and control yourself. Power begins with self-awareness and the ability to adapt without losing your core identity. Be self-conscious. Recognize that life is a stage. Know the role you're playing and how others perceive you. Master self-control. Master your emotions and expressions. Adapt to the situation without losing control. Create a memorable identity. Craft an image that is impossible to ignore, one that makes people talk. Master the art of theatrics. Reinvention isn't just about who you are, it's about how you present yourself. A well-crafted image needs the right stage, the right timing, and the right dramatic effect to leave a lasting impact. Use suspense, surprise, and grand gestures to make your presence unforgettable. Position yourself at the center of the action. Never fade into the background. Your identity is a costume. Wear it with confidence, but never let it wear you. Control how others perceive you. People don't see you as you are. They see you as you present yourself. The key to power is managing perception, knowing when to reveal, when to hold back, and when to disappear. Read the room. Know what captivates people and what bores them. Command attention. Be seen, but on your terms. Hold back when necessary. The less you reveal, the more they wonder. Mystery creates intrigue. But great reinvention isn't just about creating an identity. It's about how you reveal it to the world. If you reveal too much too soon, you lose your mystery. Hold back too long, and you fade into obscurity. That's where theatrics come in. The most powerful figures don't just exist. They stage their presence. Here's how you do it. The beau geste, a bold, symbolic gesture that cements your reputation. Stage entrances and exits. People remember the first and last impression. Make them count. Understated presence. Sometimes silence is more powerful than words. But be careful. Overacting can backfire. Trying too hard to be seen is just another way of looking desperate. So master these tactics, but remember, true power isn't in just creating one identity. It's in adapting. The strongest players don't stick to a single role. They shift, evolve, and become whatever the moment demands. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. In the 12th century, King Henry II of England clashed with Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Once Henry's loyal ally, Becket defied him, defending the church's power over the king's authority. Frustrated, Henry reportedly exclaimed, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" His knights took this as an order. They traveled to Canterbury Cathedral and murdered Becket in 1170. The assassination shocked the Christian world, but Henry denied involvement. He never explicitly gave the order. By keeping his hands clean, he avoided direct blame while still benefiting from Becket's removal. Power is a dirty game, and those who truly master it understand one crucial rule. You must appear spotless. Your reputation is built more on what you conceal than on what you reveal. Mistakes, scandals, and ruthless decisions must never be traced back to you. Instead, use others to do your dirty work. Let them take the risks and the fall, while you stay untouchable. To do it, use the scapegoat strategy. When things go wrong, find a scapegoat, someone to sacrifice to protect your own reputation. During the Italian Renaissance, Cesare Borgia knew power depended on appearances. To establish control over Italy, Borgia hired a brutal enforcer named Ramiro de Orco, giving him absolute power to crush opposition. De Orco did his job mercilessly, spreading fear and hatred among the people. But as resentment grew among the people, Borgia knew he had to distance himself from him to clean up his image. So he turned de Orco into the villain. He publicly condemned him, staged his execution, and left his mutilated body in the town square as a spectacle. The people, once terrified of Borgia's rule, saw him as their savior for punishing the tyrant. This is the power of a scapegoat. When things go wrong, shift the blame before anyone questions your role. But there is a second strategy, the cat's paw strategy. While a scapegoat takes the blame, a cat's paw does the dirty work. When a task is risky or unpopular, the true strategist ensures that someone else executes it while they reap the rewards. Few mastered this strategy as well as Cleopatra. She wasn't just a queen. She was a master manipulator who used the most powerful men of her time as tools for her own gain. After being exiled by her brother Ptolemy XIII, Cleopatra didn't attempt a direct attack. Instead, she seduced Julius Caesar, convincing him to eliminate her enemies and restore her to power. Years later, she repeated the same tactic with Mark Antony, using him as a pawn to expand her influence. Cleopatra never wielded a sword, yet she controlled the men who did. This is the essence of the cat's paw strategy. Let others take the risks while you remain in control. Finally, here's how to apply this law. Never let your name be attached to failure or scandal. Keep a scapegoat ready for when things go wrong. Avoid doing the dirty work yourself. Find someone, a cat's paw, willing to take the risk while you reap the rewards. Control the narrative. If a mistake is made, act quickly. Shift the blame before people start looking at you. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. In the late 1960s, Charles Manson built a devoted following known as the Family, but he didn't control them through force. He controlled them through belief. Manson presented himself as a messianic figure, claiming an apocalyptic war was coming, and only he could guide his followers to salvation. He gave them purpose, rituals, and a cause greater than themselves. And once they believed, they obeyed completely. In 1969, under Manson's direction, his followers carried out a series of brutal murders, including the killing of actress Sharon Tate. Manson never lifted a weapon himself. His power lay in his ability to make others act on his vision. This is the power of belief. People don't want the hard truth because truth requires effort. Instead, they crave romantic illusions, something bigger than themselves to believe in. They don't follow logic, they follow emotion. If you can provide that belief, if you can position yourself as the leader of a movement, a cause, or a new way of thinking, people will follow you with blind devotion. But creating a devoted following isn't random. It follows a formula. Here's the 5-step formula. Keep it vague, yet inspiring. First, attract attention. Your message should be simple yet profound, filled with the promise of transformation. But don't reveal too much. The less you say, the more people will fill in the blanks with their own hopes and dreams. This makes them even more invested in your vision. Say things like, "You are destined for greatness." They don't want you to know the secret. Appeal to emotions, not logic. Once you have their attention, you must keep them engaged. The biggest threats to any movement are boredom and skepticism. If people think rationally, they might start questioning you. So don't give them time to think. Keep them emotionally engaged. Use dramatic speeches, visuals, and rituals to create a hypnotic atmosphere. Surround yourself with an aura of mystery and exclusivity. Keep them entertained, so they never stop to analyze too deeply. By constantly stimulating their emotions, you ensure they stay loyal. Borrow religious structures. Every powerful movement, from ancient religions to modern brands, follows a structured system that elevates the leader above the followers. To achieve this, you must create rituals that reinforce commitment. Develop a hierarchy where members progress in status over time. Assign titles to make them feel special and chosen. Ask them for sacrifices, like money or time, framing them as a necessary for their own transformation. But most importantly, establish yourself as more than just a leader. You are a prophet, a visionary, a revolutionary. Speak with conviction. Dress the part. Act as if you possess wisdom beyond ordinary people. The stronger your image, the more authority you hold. Disguise your source of income. As your movement grows, power and wealth will flow to you. But you must never appear power-hungry. Instead, if you become rich, claim your success comes from the truth of your methods, not from your followers' pockets. People will copy you, believing that if they follow in your path, they too will achieve success, and their devotion will blind them to any contradictions in your story. Create an us versus them dynamic. A movement thrives on opposition. To solidify loyalty, you need an enemy. If no enemy exists, invent one. Frame outsiders as non-believers or oppressors. Convince followers they are part of an exclusive group under attack. Use this fear to keep them united and dependent on you. When people feel threatened, they cling tighter to their leader. Even if they have doubts, they won't leave, because betraying you would mean betraying the cause. These techniques grant you immense influence, but they come with a warning. If your followers ever see through your illusion, their devotion can turn into rage. History has shown that the most powerful cult leaders and manipulators are often destroyed by their own followers once the spell is broken. Therefore, be vigilant. Use spies, control the narrative, and always have an escape plan, because when belief shatters, so does your power. Law 28, Interaction with Boldness. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico with a small force of men, facing the mighty Aztec Empire. Outnumbered and deep in enemy territory, he made a radical decision. He ordered his men to burn their ships. There would be no retreat, only victory or death. At first, this seemed reckless, but by eliminating any escape, Cortés forced his men to commit fully. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. And against all odds, they conquered the Aztecs. Cortés' boldness inspired unwavering loyalty and led to a decisive victory. Hesitation infects your actions with doubt, and doubt is contagious. The moment you appear unsure, others start questioning you. But when you move with boldness, you seize control, forcing others onto the defensive. A bold move commands respect. A timid one invites challenge. Here's why boldness works. The bolder the lie, the more believable. This is why in negotiations, asking for something outrageous often gets you more than playing it safe. A bold claim delivered with confidence distracts from its flaws. But hesitation, on the other hand, gives people time to doubt you. So if you demand the extraordinary, you force others to take you seriously. Lions circle the hesitant prey. Everything depends on perception. If you show weakness, compromising, backing down, retreating, you invite aggression. Even those who aren't naturally ruthless will push you around. But when you act with unshakable confidence, people hesitate to challenge you. Boldness strikes fear, and fear creates authority. A bold move doesn't just surprise people, it shocks them. If it's sudden, swift, and unexpected, it doesn't just create fear, it establishes dominance. When people are caught off guard, they don't have time to question your power. Instead, they become defensive, constantly anticipating your next move. The bolder you are, the less likely others are to resist you. Going halfway digs your grave. Hesitation is fatal. If you act without full confidence, you create your own obstacles. The moment problems arise, you second-guess yourself, hesitate, and get overwhelmed. And when you pause, others take advantage of that gap. The timid hare retreats and falls into the hunter's snare. The bold wolf charges forward and survives. Audacity separates you from the herd. Most people are timid, eager to avoid conflict and be liked. But that fear keeps them small. The bold, however, stand out, and attention creates power. Timid people fade into the background. The bold demand attention. And what draws attention draws influence. We can't look away from those who dare to go further than the rest. We want to see their next bold move. But let's be clear, boldness is not for every situation. It's a tactical weapon, not a blind strategy. You must plan ahead, think strategically, and when the moment comes, strike with audacity. Mistakes made through boldness can be corrected with even more boldness, but mistakes made through hesitation, they rarely can. So act boldly, strike first, and command respect. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Hannibal Barca was one of the greatest military strategists in history. In 218 before the Common Era, during the Second Punic War, he did the impossible, leading his army, including war elephants, across the Alps to attack Rome from an unexpected direction. He won battle after battle, including the legendary Battle of Cannae, where he crushed a Roman army twice his size. But despite these victories, Hannibal failed to achieve his ultimate goal, defeating Rome. Why? Because he had no endgame. He conquered land, but didn't secure critical resources and allies. He expected Rome to surrender, but they regrouped and struck back. Eventually, after years of fighting, He was outmaneuvered, forced into exile, and died a fugitive. Victory in the moment is worthless if you haven't planned for what comes next. If you don't control the outcome, someone else will. Most people act on impulse. They chase short-term wins, react emotionally, and hope everything falls into place. But hope is not a strategy. Improvisation will only get you through the next crisis. It will never build lasting power. However, when you plan all the way to the end, you take control. You anticipate obstacles before they arise. You stay ahead while others scramble to react. You dictate the game. But if planning all the way to the end is so powerful, why do most people fail to do it? They get trapped in the moment, reacting instead of strategizing. They mistake wishful thinking for actual planning. They improvise under pressure instead of having contingency plans. They assume things will just work out and ignore real obstacles. They focus on the happy ending but never map out how to get there, and that's why they lose. But if you want to dominate the game, here's how you can plan like a master strategist. Define the end game. What is the ultimate goal? Power? Wealth? Influence? Get specific, because a vague vision leads to vague results. Map out the obstacles. What could go wrong? Who could oppose you? Anticipate every threat. The best generals win the war before the first battle. Set the steps in motion. Think like a chess player. Move your pieces deliberately. Every action should lead you closer to the final goal. Control the timing. Know when to advance, when to retreat, and when to stop. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. In the early 20th century, Harry Houdini stunned the world with impossible escapes. From handcuffs, locked boxes, even water-filled tanks. To his audience, he appeared almost supernatural, effortlessly slipping free from any restraint. But behind the illusion was something far less magical: relentless practice. Houdini spent years mastering his craft until every move was second nature. By making his accomplishments seem easy, Houdini created an aura of mystery. People believed he possessed a special gift, something beyond human ability, and that belief made him powerful. Power is not just about what you achieve, it's about how you make it look. The most powerful people create the perception that success comes easily to them. But behind closed doors, they spend hours refining their craft. Yet, most people make a crucial mistake. They expose their struggles, thinking it will earn them respect. Instead, it has the opposite effect. It makes them look ordinary. The moment people see your sweat, they stop seeing your brilliance. So, how do you create an aura of effortless power? Here's what you need to do. Practice relentlessly, but in private before stepping onto the stage. Never reveal the struggle. If people see you sweating, they stop seeing you as exceptional. Conceal your methods. The more mysterious your skill, the more powerful you appear. This concept isn't new. In the 16th century, Baldassare Castiglione introduced a term for it: sprezzatura, the art of making the difficult seem easy. This idea is at the heart of power because power depends on perception. If something looks effortless, people assume you were born with a gift. If they see the struggle, they assume you're just another hard worker. Mystery creates admiration. When people can't understand how you do what you do, they stand in awe. But the moment you explain, they convince themselves they could do it too. Over-explaining kills the magic. When you reveal too much, others can copy you, or worse, use that knowledge to undermine you. Despite its power, many fail to apply this law because they crave recognition. They want credit for their hard work, not realizing that exposing it weakens their image. They over-explain their process. Instead of impressing, they make themselves look ordinary. They assume honesty about struggle earns respect, but in reality, it often makes them seem less competent. They reveal too much, and by doing so, they give away their advantage. If you want to master this law, follow these two golden rules of power. First, maintain mystery. The less effort you show, the more awe-inspiring you seem. People will assume your abilities are limitless. Second, control perception. If others believe you could achieve even more with minimal effort, they won't just admire you, they'll fear you. The greatest illusion of power isn't just having it, it's making it seem effortless. Law 31. Control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. In the 16th century, Ivan the Terrible faced two major threats: rebellious aristocrats defying his rule, and enemies surrounding Russia. If he crushed the rebels, he'd weaken his defenses. If he focused on external threats, the rebels would grow bolder. So he created a dilemma. In 1564, Ivan suddenly left Moscow, claiming he could no longer rule under such opposition. The city panicked. Without the Tsar's protection, the people feared the rebels would seize power and plunge Russia into chaos. Desperate, they begged him to return. He agreed, but only if they accepted his absolute rule. Their choice? Submit to Ivan or face the rebels alone. But in reality, there was never a real choice, only an illusion of one. The best deceptions make people think they have control when, in reality, every option still leads to your desired outcome. Instead of forcing people in one direction, which trigger resistance, you present multiple paths, all leading to where you want them to go. By controlling the options, you make others feel like they're in charge, when really they're just playing into your hands. It works because total freedom is overwhelming. Too many choices create anxiety, and when people feel uncertain, they prefer a controlled set of options. That's why skilled manipulators don't impose a single path. They create two or three, all leading to the same destination. Here's how to do it. Color the choices. Highlight the option you want in the best light, while making the alternatives seem less appealing. This is especially useful when dealing with someone in a higher position than you. Force the resistor. Some people rebel against authority, no matter what. The trick? Push them toward the opposite of what you want. Knowing their contrarian nature will make them defy you by doing exactly what you intended. Alter the playing field. Instead of limiting choices, change the environment so that the decision you want is the only practical one. People will believe they chose freely, but you set the stage. The shrinking options. Some people hesitate endlessly, fearing the wrong choice. Apply pressure by making the options worse over time, forcing them to act before it's too late. The weak man on the precipice. The weak avoid tough decisions. If logic fails, fear works. Make inaction feel like a bigger risk than making a choice. Brothers in crime. Want to lock someone into loyalty? Get them involved in something shady. Shared guilt binds people together. The horns of a dilemma. Give people two bad choices, ensuring they suffer, no matter what. When both roads lead to their downfall, they'll scramble for a third option, one you secretly wanted all along. But be careful while controlling the options is powerful. It must be done subtly. If people realize they are being manipulated, they may resist out of spite, even if the choice is logical. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. In the early 1500s, Spanish conquistadors sailed to the New World, driven by the promise of immense wealth. Leaders like Hernán Cortés didn't tell his soldiers, "This will be a brutal, uncertain war, and many of you will die." That would have crushed their morale. Instead, he fed them a dream, gold beyond imagination and eternal glory. And it worked. Most of these men were poor and desperate for escape. That belief pushed them to fight against impossible odds, ultimately leading to the fall of powerful empires. The truth is often avoided, not because it's hard to find, but because it's ugly. And when people are suffering, they rarely want to admit that their own choices got them there. Instead, they look for something external to blame: the government, the economy, fate itself. And if the problem comes from outside, then the solution must also come from outside: a savior, a shortcut, a miracle. This is why people are drawn to leaders, influencers, and gurus who promise a way out. But here's the key: never offer gradual improvement through hard work. That's not what people want to hear. They don't want the truth. They want a story, one where transformation is instant effortless, and inevitable. If you understand what people want to believe, you can shape their actions. Here's the four fantasies that control people's desires. The fantasy of instant change. Success takes time, effort, and sacrifice, but people hate patience. They want to believe in one magical event that will change everything: a winning lottery ticket, a secret formula, a hidden shortcut. If you can sell them the dream of instant transformation, they won't just believe it, they'll fight to defend it. The fantasy of escape. Reality is full of rules, responsibilities, and limitations. But people dream of leaving it all behind, of stepping into a new world with unlimited freedom and adventure. This is why cults, radical movements, and luxury lifestyle influencers thrive. They sell the idea that you can abandon the ordinary and become someone else. The fantasy of unity. Society is divided by competition, self-interest, and conflict. But people wish there was a way for everyone to come together in perfect harmony. And it works because people crave belonging. Leaders who promise unity can rally enormous support, whether it's through nationalism, religion, or ideology. But this is also the most dangerous fantasy, often exploited by demagogues. The fantasy of reversing the unchangeable. The past is gone. Death is final. But people desperately want to believe that what was lost can be restored. Whether it's an old era, a second chance, or even a way to cheat death, nostalgia is a powerful drug, and those who master it can make people chase ghosts forever. But to keep the fantasy alive, it needs to stay just out of reach, because the moment it becomes too real, it loses its power. Think about it. If a self-proclaimed guru actually delivered everything they promised, people wouldn't need them anymore. Their influence would disappear. That's why the smartest manipulators never let the illusion fully materialize. They keep people chasing, always believing that the breakthrough is just around the corner. Because once someone is addicted to the fantasy, they'll follow you anywhere. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. J. Edgar Hoover ruled Washington, D.C. for decades, not because of his official power as the head of the FBI, but because he knew everyone's secrets. He kept extensive files on politicians, celebrities, and public figures. These files weren't just records, they were weapons. At any moment, Hoover could expose an affair, a hidden vice, or a past mistake. And because of that, few dared to challenge his authority. Everyone has a weakness, an insecurity, a hidden pleasure, an uncontrollable emotion. Some wear it openly, while others hide it beneath a facade. By finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them strategically, you can gain control and influence over them. To strategically find and exploit someone's weaknesses, follow these 6 principles. Read the unspoken signs. Sigmund Freud once said, "No mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips." People reveal their weaknesses in ways they don't realize. Watch for how they treat waiters or subordinates. Does power make them arrogant or generous? What excites, angers, or obsesses them? How they respond to flattery or criticism? Do they crave praise or shrink from disapproval? But the key isn't just what you observe, but how you observe it. Train yourself to seem genuinely interested. People spill secrets to those who listen. Share a harmless secret first. This makes them reciprocate, often revealing something deeper. Study their habits, how they tip, how they dress, what they collect. All of it speaks volumes. Find what they worship, what they chase, what they fear, and you'll know exactly how to pull their strings. Find the helpless child. Most adult weaknesses trace back to childhood wounds. A person who was spoiled may crave indulgence, while someone who lacked love or validation will gravitate toward those who provide it. Once you uncover what they lacked, you can supply a version of it, making them emotionally dependent on you. Were they overindulged? Then feed their hidden cravings. Were they deprived of love or approval? Then become their source of validation. When you hit on a person's deep-seated insecurity, they don't react logically, they react emotionally, like a child. Watch for behavior that seems immature or exaggerated. That's the key to their soft spot. Look for contradictions. People often project the opposite of their true nature. The timid crave boldness. The aggressive are often insecure. The overly serious secretly long for adventure. They overcompensate to hide their true nature. But if you look past the surface, their weakness becomes obvious. And once you know what they truly want, you can control how they get it. Identify the weak link. Not everyone is easily manipulated, but someone close to them is. Every leader has an advisor, a confidant, a spouse, someone they trust. Find this person, win them over, and you gain indirect power over the real target. Fill the emotional void. People are driven by two major emotional voids: insecurity and unhappiness. The insecure crave validation, flatter them, and they will seek your approval. The unhappy look for an escape. Become their source of joy, and you control their emotions. Most people don't want to fix their problems. They want to feel like they've fixed them. Give them that illusion, and they'll depend on you forever. Exploit uncontrollable emotions. Lust, greed, fear, vanity. These emotions override logic. A paranoid person will believe any threat you suggest. A greedy person will chase any opportunity that promises wealth. A vain person will fall for any praise that feeds their ego. When people can't control themselves, you can control them. However, manipulation is risky. Stir up emotions too much, and people may react unpredictably. A timid person pushed into boldness may go too far. A validation seeker may become clingy and demanding. A person whose fear is exposed may lash out in desperation. The key is balance. Push when necessary, but always know when to step back. Because once a person realizes they're being controlled, they'll do anything to break free. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Before he ever became emperor of Rome, Julius Caesar acted like one. Even when his future was uncertain, he projected confidence, dressing with elegance, speaking with authority, and commanding his troops as if his rule was inevitable. By carrying himself like a king, people began to see him as one. And when the time came, his rise to power felt natural, as if he had been destined for it all along. Most people don't claim their power, not because they lack talent or ambition, but because they fear how others will perceive them. They think that if they act too confident, they'll come off as arrogant. So instead of owning their worth, they downplay it, hiding their strengths behind false humility, hoping this will make them more likable. But here's the problem. People don't truly respect those who act this way. They sense the performance, and instead of admiration, it breeds contempt. Worse, when a leader erases the natural distance between themselves and others, they lose their ability to inspire fear or admiration. Without mystique, they become ordinary, or worse, forgettable. And in the world of power, being forgettable is a death sentence. The deeper issue isn't just pretending to be humble, it's that many people actually believe they aren't worthy of greatness. Over time, they impose limits on themselves, shrink their ambitions, and accept mediocrity as their destiny. But the truth is, the world treats you as you present yourself. If you act small, you will remain small. If you act like royalty, you will eventually be treated as such. To command respect, you must act as if you deserve it. The key is to believe in your own destiny so fully that others believe it too. Confidence is magnetic, and people are drawn to those who believe in their own greatness. If you move with certainty, people will assume you have a right to lead. If you demand more, they'll assume you're worth more. Over time, the world will reflect back the image you create. But a crown is more than just confidence. It's the way you move, the way you hold yourself. The key is to separate yourself from the ordinary without becoming arrogant. Move with dignity, never desperation. Show confidence, not insecurity disguised as arrogance. Never try to prove your superiority. True power doesn't beg for validation. A true ruler doesn't need to convince others of their worth. They simply embody it, and the world follows their lead. To reinforce this royal demeanor, consider the following strategies. The Columbus strategy: make bold demands. Christopher Columbus wasn't born into nobility. He was the son of a cheese merchant. But that didn't stop him from acting like he came from greatness. When seeking funding for his voyages, he didn't beg. He demanded titles, wealth, and hereditary rights. By setting his price high, he forced people to take him seriously. If you ask for little, you will get little. But if you set your price high, people will assume you're worth it. The David and Goliath strategy. Challenge the most powerful. One of the fastest ways to elevate your status is to stand against someone above you. By daring to confront someone powerful, you place yourself on their level in the eyes of others. The world measures you by the strength of your opponents. The gift strategy. Give to establish equality. A well-placed gift can subtly shift the power dynamic. When you give something valuable to someone above you, you create a bond of reciprocity. You are no longer a beggar, you are an equal, offering something of worth. This forces those in power to see you differently. They must acknowledge your value, and once they do, the balance of power shifts in your favor. While confidence is crucial, it's important to strike a balance. Excessive confidence can be risky. Here are some pitfalls to avoid. Never humiliate others to elevate yourself. This breeds resentment and creates enemies. Don't stand too far above the crowd. If you make yourself untouchable, you also make yourself an easy target. Avoid false vulgarity. Some try to gain power by outdoing others in crudeness or excess, but this is short-lived. Someone will outdo you. Law 35. Master the art of timing. John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, didn't become one of the richest men in history by acting impulsively. He understood that power comes from knowing when to move. Instead of aggressively eliminating competitors at every turn, he waited. He didn't fight the market when it wasn't in his favor. Instead, he observed, letting time do the work for him. During economic downturns, when oil companies were struggling and desperate, Rockefeller struck. He bought them for a fraction of their worth, expanding his empire while his competitors collapsed. While others exhausted themselves by reacting, he controlled time itself. He made moves only when they would have the greatest impact. Time isn't fixed. It changes based on our emotions. A child's summer feels endless, while an adult's year disappears in a blink. Impatient people are slaves to time, always reacting, always rushing. And rushing signals weakness. It shows you're not in control. But powerful people, on the other hand, move as if they own time. They wait, they watch, and they act only when the moment is right. When you control timing, you see further into the future. Avoid traps that others blindly walk into. Stay flexible, ready to seize opportunities that others miss. Build power that lasts instead of burning out quickly. So instead of forcing things, position yourself where opportunity will naturally arrive. And to do that, you must master the 3 types of time and the strategies that let you bend time to your will. First, long time. The art of waiting. Some things cannot be rushed. Power built slowly is power that lasts. Acting out of fear or impatience only creates more obstacles. Sometimes the best move is no move at all. This is where the tidal wave strategy comes in. Instead of fighting against the tides of history, the wise ride them to power. But remember, what rises will fall. Knowing when to step back is just as important as knowing when to advance. For example, a smart investor doesn't panic when the market crashes. They wait for the right moment to buy low and ride the wave back up. Second, force time, controlling others' pace. Timing isn't just about waiting, it's also about manipulating other people's timing. If you can make your opponent hurry, hesitate, or abandon their rhythm, you gain control. This is where the chess player strategy comes in. Great chess players dictate the pace of the game, speeding up or slowing down to throw their opponent off balance. You must do the same in life. Control the tempo of conversations, negotiations, and conflicts. Slow down when others are impatient. Speed up when they expect hesitation. Third, end time, the moment to strike. Patience is worthless if you hesitate when the right moment comes. When it's time to act, Move with speed and finality. Your opponent should be paralyzed, unable to react before it's too late. This is where the snake charmer strategy comes in. A snake charmer lulls the snake into a trance, but when the moment comes, he must strike without hesitation. The same applies to power. You can wait and prepare, but when the opportunity arrives, you must act instantly. A single delay can undo years of preparation. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. One day, as Diogenes lounged in the sun, Alexander the Great offered him anything he desired. Without hesitation, Diogenes replied, "Yes, move out of my sunlight." His audacious response stunned Alexander and his entourage. The most powerful man in the world had offered him everything, yet Diogenes wanted nothing. In a single sentence, he proved he was beyond control, untouched by wealth or power. Power struggles usually go two ways. Either people try to get something from you, your time, your energy, your reaction, or you find yourself chasing something from others. In both cases, the one who seems least affected holds the power. People expect reactions. The more you react to insults, the more control you hand over to others. But when you act as if something doesn't exist, you strip it of all meaning. Think about it. Someone insults you. Do you react or act like their words are beneath you? A rival tries to provoke you. Do you fight or let them exhaust themselves for nothing? A setback occurs. Do you panic or move forward like it never happened? The less you respond, the more control you have. And if something truly needs to be dealt with, do it in silence. Never give the satisfaction of a public reaction. But what happens when you actually want something? That's where desire becomes a paradox. Chase it and it runs. Ignore it and it comes to you. The more you chase something, the more power you give it. If you desire something too openly, you repel it. But if you act indifferent, suddenly it comes to you. Think of someone chasing approval or love. Desperate people beg for attention and get ignored. But the ones who walk away, they become the prize. And that's the secret. Nothing is more powerful than looking unbothered. Lose something. Act like it never mattered. The job you didn't get, the person who rejected you, the opportunity that slipped away, shrug it off like it was nothing. Because the less you care, the more others do. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. In the late 17th century, Louis XIV moved the French court from Paris to Versailles, where he built a palace so extravagant that it became a symbol of absolute power. Louis turned Versailles into a stage for political theater, hosting elaborate ceremonies and daily rituals, like his famous rising ceremony. Nobles would compete for the honor of assisting him as he dressed. It may sound absurd, but that was the genius of it. Power wasn't taken. It was given to him. The nobles were so caught up in the spectacle that they didn't realize they were the ones being controlled. People don't crave facts or logic. They crave feeling. A well-crafted spectacle bypasses reason and speaks directly to emotion, where real influence happens. Think of religious ceremonies, political rallies, or even viral marketing campaigns. None of them rely on words alone. Instead, they use grand imagery, dramatic symbols, and orchestrated moments to create awe. And when people feel something deeply, they convince themselves of whatever they want to believe. This is why powerful leaders or brands master the art of visual dominance. Play with powerful imagery. Symbols and visuals stick in people's minds far longer than words. Establish a signature look or act. A unique trait, whether it's a personal style, a signature phrase, or an iconic gesture, makes you unforgettable. Draw from the past. Timeless symbols carry weight. If something worked in the past, it can work again. Be theatrical. A well-staged performance doesn't just communicate a message, it makes people feel it. Visuals work because they bypass the mind's defenses entirely, leaving no room for debate. Words, on the other hand, can be misunderstood, twisted, debated, or ignored. Words divide, but spectacle unites. A speech can be challenged, but a flag, a symbol, or a dramatic event can rally people instantly. The more you explain, the weaker you seem. If you need to justify your power, you've already lost half the battle. Spectacle imposes itself as truth. When something is visually overwhelming, it's hard to question. It simply feels real. That's why the most powerful figures in history don't just tell people who they are, they show them. If you want to command attention, don't rely on words alone. Create a spectacle and people will follow. Law 38. Think as you like but behave like others. Galileo Galilei provided proof that the earth revolves around the sun, directly contradicting the Catholic Church's teachings. At the time, the Church had immense power, and Galileo knew that challenging their doctrine could lead to severe consequences. In 1633, Galileo was tried for heresy. He had a choice: stand by his beliefs and risk execution, or publicly renounce his findings and live. He chose survival. He recanted, conformed outwardly, and avoided persecution while privately maintaining his views. Many believe that standing up for the truth will earn them admiration. But in reality, openly challenging the status quo rarely leads to respect. More often, it invites resistance, resentment, or punishment. People don't like to feel judged or inferior. If your words or actions make them question their beliefs, they won't thank you. They'll see you as a threat. Even if you don't intend it, your defiance may be seen as an insult. So what's the alternative? If direct confrontation doesn't work, you need to play the long game. Don't waste energy fighting battles you can't win. Here's how to do it. Blend in to be left alone. Behave conventionally while quietly thinking whatever you like. Let people assume you think like them. It flatters them and keeps you in their good graces. Express your ideas only to the right people. Share your real thoughts only with those who will appreciate them. Don't reveal too much. If no one knows what you truly believe, they can't accuse you of hypocrisy. Never seek martyrdom. Suffering for your beliefs won't change the world. Surviving and quietly influencing others over time is far more effective. Establish power before standing out. Once you have influence, you can slowly shape opinions instead of forcing change. Master adaptability. The most powerful people are those who fit in best. They blend in to gain control and strike when the time is right. But why does this strategy work? Why do people react so aggressively when their beliefs are challenged? The answer is simple. Most people don't hold their beliefs because they've carefully thought them through. They hold them because those beliefs define who they are. When you attack their beliefs, they don't respond logically, they respond emotionally. This is why arguments rarely change minds, but often create enemies. If you force people to question deeply ingrained beliefs, they'll resist, reject, and in some cases, retaliate. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Napoleon Bonaparte, known for his military genius, often used chaos and confusion as a strategic weapon. Before invading Austria in 1809, he deliberately sowed distrust among Austria's allies, weakening their unity. They became disorganized, reactive, and easy to defeat. By stirring the waters, Napoleon forced his enemies into making rash decisions, giving him total control over the battlefield. Emotion is a liability in power. The moment you lose control, you hand your enemies the advantage. But if you can make them angry while staying calm, you gain an undeniable advantage. They become predictable, impulsive, and easy to manipulate. This is why great strategists provoke emotions in others, but never let their own emotions control them. When people are calm, they think clearly, but when they're angry, they make mistakes. Therefore, if you want to control someone, don't attack them directly. Agitate them, unsettle them, and let their emotions do the rest. Here's how to make your enemy angry. Stir the waters. When things are calm, your enemies have time to plot. So, disrupt their balance. Push them into action before they're ready by playing on their emotions: pride, vanity, insecurity, or fear. Exploit their weaknesses. If you expose a weakness, whether real or just an illusion, your opponent will often overreact, giving you an opportunity to strike. Appear weak. Nothing is more tempting to an aggressor than an easy target. Let them believe they have the upper hand, and they'll rush in blindly. Stay unshaken. People hate losing control. If you remain calm while they unravel, they will become even more frustrated. Choose battles wisely. Never provoke someone you can't handle. Use this strategy against those who are vulnerable to emotional manipulation, not against those with overwhelming power. But what happens if you are the one being provoked? If someone tries to stir your emotions, losing your temper will play right into their hands, revealing your weaknesses. It may create fear at first, but fear fades, resentment lingers. You look unstable and untrustworthy, creating enemies who quietly wait for your downfall. You say things you regret, handing your opponents ammunition against you. It signals to everyone that you've lost control. You don't look powerful. You look like a child throwing a tantrum. Truly powerful people don't let anger control them. They see anger for what it is, a weapon, not a reaction. By staying calm, they keep the upper hand. Once you master your emotions, you can play with the emotions of others. Provoke the insecure by questioning their competence. Frustrate the impatient by making them wait. Use fake anger strategically, not as a genuine reaction, but as a calculated move to intimidate when necessary. Chaos is a powerful tool in the hands of those who know how to use it. Keep control over yourself, but never hesitate to stir the waters when it serves your purpose. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. When Louis XIV became king, the nobility was rebellious and difficult to control. But instead of crushing them by force, he made them financially dependent. He forced them to spend lavishly to maintain their status at court, draining their resources. Then, when he needed loyalty, he didn't demand it. He created the illusion of choice. He would first ignore a noble, making them anxious. Then, when they least expected it, he would grant them a favor, a position for their son, funds for their region, or a priceless gift. Gratitude replaced defiance. They felt indebted, not forced, and that made their loyalty far more powerful. Nothing is truly free. What is offered without cost often comes with hidden strings, obligations, deceit, or a future favor you may not want to repay. Accepting free gifts can make you weak, dependent, and controlled by those who offer them. But when you pay full price, you stay independent. You owe no one. Strategic generosity, however, is different. Giving at the right moment creates influence. A reputation for generosity makes people admire you, trust you, and, even better, feel indebted to you. The key is knowing when to give and when to refuse. And to do that, you must first understand how people think about money. Not everyone uses it wisely. Some let it control them, making themselves predictable and easy to exploit. To navigate power effectively, learn to recognize these types. First, the greedy fish. Obsessed with profit, they prioritize numbers over relationships. Their hunger for gain makes them blind to deception. Offer them easy money and they'll take the bait every time. Second, the bargain demon. These people judge everything by cost, not by value. They waste time chasing discounts, ignoring quality and long-term benefits. Their scarcity mindset can infect you if you're not careful. Third, the financial sadist. They use money as a weapon, paying late, controlling others through debt, and creating stress. If someone enjoys making you beg for what you're owed, walk away. The price isn't worth it. Fourth, the indiscriminate giver. They give to everyone not out of strategy, but out of neediness. They want validation, but their generosity lacks power because it's unfocused. No one values what they give because they give too freely. Finally, to stay in control, understand this. Money isn't just a resource. It's a tool for power. Use it wisely, or others will use it against you. Free favors come with hidden costs. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Pay for what you want and stay independent. Greed blinds people. If you promise easy money, many will fall for it. Use this to your advantage when needed. Selling the dream is more profitable than chasing it. The smartest players don't just seek wealth, they profit by teaching others how to get it. Use money to lure, not to save. Being cheap is a distraction. Strategic spending builds influence, loyalty, and power. Fast money disappears quickly. Real power isn't built on quick wins. It's built on patience, control, and long-term thinking. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Louis XVI inherited the French throne after his grandfather, Louis XV. But overshadowing them both was the legacy of Louis XIV, the Sun King, who made France a dominant power. Louis XVI tried to maintain the same grandeur, the same rituals, but without the same force of personality. Where Louis XIV commanded respect, Louis XVI hesitated. Instead of adapting to a new era, he clung to outdated traditions. As a result, by trying to imitate a legend, Louis XVI set himself up for failure. He became a weak king, lost control of the nobility, and ultimately lost his throne and his head. Power is about presence, about standing out. But when you follow a legend, your presence shrinks. Many successors make the mistake of assuming they can follow the same blueprint that worked before them. But times change, circumstances evolve. What worked for the past will not necessarily work now. The strategies that built an empire in one era can destroy it in another. So, don't follow, break free. Here are 5 reasons to bury your past. It prevents you from shaping your own world. If you cling to the past, you will never build something new. You are forced to follow outdated traditions. The world changes, and yesterday's solutions don't solve today's problems. You remain in the shadow of your predecessor. If you don't break free, you'll always be the next instead of the first. You assume what worked before will work again. It won't. The world is different now. Adapt or fail. Fear of losing an inheritance makes you weak. When you're too afraid to let go of the past, you hesitate, and hesitation leads to downfall. If imitation is a dead end, what's the alternative? Power isn't about preserving the past. It's about creating the future. To do that, you must clear space for yourself. Here's how. Eliminate the father figure. Only when the predecessor is symbolically removed can you step into power. Napoleon did this by abolishing the monarchy and crowning himself emperor, signaling a complete break from the past. Reject outdated precedents. The chaos execution of a king is often a metaphor. You must distance yourself from the old ways. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he scrapped the failing projects of the previous leadership and rebuilt the company from scratch. Use the generational divide. Stir up rebellion against outdated traditions. Frame the old as obsolete and position yourself as the leader of a new era. Make a clear break. Symbolic gestures matter. Elon Musk removed Twitter's iconic bird logo and rebranded the entire platform as X, signaling a complete transformation of the company's identity. Breaking from the past is only half the battle. Once you clear the old, you must create something new. Power doesn't just come from rejecting what came before, it comes from positioning yourself as the new force to fill the void. To do that, hunt out the gaps in the present. Look for areas where something is missing. Make yourself the first and only figure in that space. Create a niche where no past shadow can reach you. Build a name that stands alone. Don't be the next someone. Be the first you. History remembers innovators, not imitators. If you want true power, don't walk in another man's shoes. Forge your own path. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. In the mid-20th century, J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, made it his mission to dismantle organized crime. But instead of wasting resources on every low-level thug, the FBI focused on taking out the leaders. Take Al Capone. He ran one of the most powerful criminal empires in history. The FBI didn't waste time taking down every hitman or bootlegging operation. Instead, they got him for something simple: tax evasion. With Capone out of the picture, his entire network collapsed. If you want to destroy a group, don't fight everyone. Just take out the leader. A strong leader is the glue that holds everything together. Without them, chaos takes over. And this doesn't just apply to criminal empires, it applies everywhere. In toxic workplaces, dysfunctional groups, or chaotic environments, problems rarely happen by accident. They usually start with one person. At first, the issues seem small. Minor arguments, passive-aggressive behavior, or subtle manipulation. But left unchecked, their influence spreads like a virus. Resentment builds, people take sides, and soon, everything spirals out of control. This is why addressing surface-level conflicts is pointless. If you don't deal with the true source, new problems will keep emerging. The key is to neutralize the troublemaker before they gain too much influence. Here's how. Spot them early. They usually fall into 3 categories. The arrogant elite, those who think they're above the group. The isolated leader, someone in power but with no real allies. The manipulator, the one always stirring tension. Never try to reform them. Appeasement only makes them bolder. Don't attack them directly. If you confront them head-on, they'll play the victim and rally support. Cut them off before they gain too much influence. Separate them from their supporters. Without a base, their influence dies. Act fast. The longer they stay, the more damage they do. Make an example of them. One sacrifice strengthens the rest of the group. Expose them. Once their true nature is revealed, their power collapses. At this point, you might be thinking, why not just get rid of them altogether? It seems like the quickest solution. But history shows that eliminating someone outright can backfire, turning them into a martyr and giving them even more influence in their absence. Instead, the smarter move is isolation. Strip them of power, but don't give them the status of a victim. When people are isolated, they become vulnerable. Their power was never really their own. It came from their followers. They grow desperate. Without influence, they're weak and easy to manipulate. They lose credibility. The moment they're cut off, their authority fades. Even the strongest figures crumble when left alone. There are 3 ways to isolate someone. Physical isolation. Exile them. Remove them from the environment. Political isolation. Strip them of influence. Cut off their support. Psychological isolation. Turn the group against them through slander and manipulation. In the end, power isn't about fighting every battle. It's about striking the right target. Remove the leader, and the rest will fall apart on their own. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Napoleon Bonaparte knew that loyalty could not be won through fear alone. A ruler who relies only on force is sitting on a ticking time bomb. That's why he created the Légion d'honneur, a prestigious order that rewarded bravery, not just for generals, but for common foot soldiers too. By making his men feel valued, he won their hearts. They didn't fight for him because they had to. They fought because they wanted to. Yes, fear can make people obey, but only for a while, because fear breeds resentment. And resentment doesn't just disappear. It waits, it builds, and one day it explodes. The more you tighten your grip, the more people dream of breaking free. So if you try to control people through intimidation, you don't just create followers, you create future enemies. So what's the alternative? Seduction. Instead of forcing people to follow you, make them want to. When people feel like they're acting out of their own free will, they become far more committed. No resistance, no rebellion. That's real power. But to win someone over, you need to understand what drives them. Some crave recognition, others seek security. Many are ruled by ego. If you tap into what they care about, they'll follow willingly. But if you ignore their emotions, they'll resist you. Push them into despair, then offer them relief. They will feel grateful. Make them expect pain, then give them pleasure. They will be loyal. Show a small act of sacrifice. They will see you as one of them. This is how you create lasting influence. Contrast Napoleon's brilliance with Marie Antoinette's downfall. By the late 1700s, France was collapsing. People were starving. The nation was drowning in debt, and what did she do? She ignored them. She threw extravagant parties. She spent fortunes on gowns and jewelry, and even when revolution erupted, she dismissed it, convinced it would pass. When the people forced her to move to Paris, she had one last chance to win them over. But again, she ignored them. By the time she realized her mistake, it was too late. In 1793, she knelt at the guillotine, defiant to the end. People like Marie Antoinette don't just lose power, they self-destruct. Here are 5 fatal mistakes that guarantee downfall: living in a bubble, oblivious to the emotions of those below them, believing you're entitled to loyalty. Respect must be earned, not demanded. Ignoring people's psychology. Bulldozing through people breeds resistance. Acting spoiled. People raised in luxury often expect the world to serve them. Failing to persuade. They assume others will follow without effort. If you want lasting power, you must do the opposite. Most people think power means domination, but real power comes from connection. So if you want to maintain influence, pay attention. Always read the psychology of those around you. Tailor your words. Speak in a way that entices and persuades. Lose touch and you lose control. The higher you rise, the more connected you must remain. Build a strong base of support. When storms come, they'll protect you. Convert enemies into allies. A former enemy who chooses your side will defend you fiercely. Calculate before you act. Learn people's emotional triggers, their fears, desires, and weaknesses. Alternate harshness with mercy. Break them down, then build them up again. Show them how it benefits them. People act out of self-interest. Tap into it. The wider your support, the stronger your power. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union both had enough nuclear weapons to wipe each other off the map. But because neither side could attack without ensuring its own destruction, they settled into a strategy called mutual assured destruction. Each side mirrored the other's actions. If one built more nukes, the other did too. If one deployed troops, the other responded in kind. This mirroring kept both sides in check, preventing all-out war. Mirrors reflect reality, but they can also deceive. When you mirror someone, copying their actions, attitudes, or strategies, you disorient them. They can't predict your next move, and that confusion gives you control. Mirroring works in 2 key ways. 1, it seduces. People love themselves. If you reflect their desires, attitudes, and emotions, they'll feel connected to you, even if it's an illusion. 2, it unsettles. When you mimic an enemy, you mock them, frustrate them, and make them react emotionally instead of logically. But mirroring isn't just about imitation. It's a psychological weapon, and it comes in 4 powerful forms. The neutralizing mirror. Disarm your enemy. Copy your opponent's actions, and they won't know how to respond, since their strategy depends on your expected reactions. Mimicking them breaks their ability to anticipate your moves. In politics, if an opponent makes accusations, reflect their rhetoric forces them into their own trap. In warfare, mirroring an enemy's tactics confuses them, making them second-guess their own moves. This strategy forces your enemy into a defensive position, unsure of their next step. The narcissus mirror. Win people over. People are drawn to those who reflect their own values, emotions, and beliefs. That's why great salespeople, politicians, and influencers don't impose their views. They reflect what others already believe. When you subtly mimic someone's speech, energy, or interests, they feel like you understand them. This builds trust and lowers their defenses. Want to make someone like you? Match their tone, mirror their gestures, and reflect their emotions. Want to influence a group? Echo their fears, desires, and aspirations. People trust what feels familiar, and nothing is more familiar than their own reflection. The moral mirror. Teach a lesson. Sometimes people don't realize when they're being selfish, cruel, or hypocritical. Instead of arguing, make them feel their own behavior. If someone ignores your messages, ignore theirs. If they spread rumors, let them become the subject of gossip. When people experience their own actions from the other side, they're forced to confront their flaws without you ever needing to call them out. The hallucinatory mirror. Create an illusion. This is the ultimate deception. You don't just reflect reality, you manipulate it by making people believe in something that isn't real. Con artists mimic authority figures, gaining trust through illusion. Military strategists use deception tactics, such as inflatable tanks or fake battle plans, to mislead enemies. If you can control what people believe, you can control what they do. Finally, mirroring is a strategy that can make you persuasive, untouchable, and even dangerous. But why does it work so well? Because it builds trust. People feel safe with those who reflect their thoughts and desires. It confuses enemies. When opponents see themselves mirrored, they lose control and react emotionally. It buys you time. By copying rather than reacting, you force others to make the first move while you stay 2 steps ahead, from seduction to warfare, from business to politics. Those who master the mirror effect can control the game without others even realizing it. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. In 1861, Tsar Alexander II of Russia made a bold move. He freed the serfs after centuries of servitude. It was supposed to be a step toward modernization, but instead of gratitude, his reforms sparked chaos. The newly freed peasants weren't prepared for life outside the old system. Landowners, furious at losing their power, resisted. Radicals argued the reforms didn't go far enough, while conservatives feared they had gone too far. Russia was caught between progress and tradition, and the backlash was deadly. Alexander II was assassinated by revolutionaries who saw his reforms as too little, too late. People demand progress, but when it arrives too fast, they resist. They fear instability more than stagnation. History has proven it over and over again. Those who push for radical change rarely live to see its rewards. The French Revolution started with promises of freedom, but ended in the Reign of Terror. The Soviet Union began as a workers' paradise, but turned into a dictatorship. Why? Because change, when sudden, feels like chaos. People don't just accept it, they fight it. That's why if you want to reform something, you can't present it as a break from the past. Instead, make it feel like a natural continuation of what already exists. Indeed, people don't resist change itself. They resist the feeling of loss. If something familiar disappears overnight, they panic. But if change feels like a refinement of what already exists, they accept it without question. So, how do you introduce change without triggering resistance? Tie it to tradition. Keep old symbols, titles, and rituals intact to create a sense of continuity. If something must go, replace it with something equally familiar. Make change feel inevitable. Introduce reforms quietly and in small steps so they seem like natural progress rather than radical shifts. Control the narrative. Frame your reforms as a way to preserve history, not erase it. People resist what feels like a break from the past, but they accept what seems like a necessary adjustment. Make it look smaller than it is. If a reform is too ahead of its time, people won't understand it, and they'll fight it. Disguise big changes as minor tweaks. Use nostalgia to your advantage. In chaotic times, people crave stability. Preach a return to the good old days, even if you're actually leading them into the future. Revolution is dangerous, so control the reaction. Those who start revolutions rarely finish them. If you want to survive, you must anticipate and neutralize backlash before it gains momentum. Change is inevitable, but how you introduce it determines whether people accept it or rebel against it. Because in the end, people don't fear change itself. They fear losing what they know. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, lived in unimaginable luxury while the people of France struggled with hunger. Her lavish lifestyle wasn't just out of touch, it made her a symbol of everything wrong with the monarchy. The people resented her, and that resentment fueled the French Revolution. In the end, her perceived perfection made her a target, and in 1793, she was executed. We assume people admire perfection, but in reality, they envy it. And envy is far more dangerous than admiration. The moment people see you as superior, they start comparing themselves to you. When they fall short, they don't blame themselves, they blame you. Envy festers in silence, turning admiration into resentment. And resentment leads to sabotage. The more you rise, the more enemies you create, sometimes even among those closest to you. As philosopher Kierkegaard put it, envy is unhappy admiration. Envy isn't always obvious. It hides behind excessive praise. Over-the-top compliments often set you up for a fall. Harsh criticism and slander. Some people will attack you outright, but often, envy disguises itself as constructive negativity. Sudden changes in behavior. A once supportive friend or colleague suddenly seems distant, cold, or passive-aggressive. Envy is inevitable, but how you carry yourself determines whether it turns into a threat. If you want to rise without becoming a target, follow these strategies. Appear more human. Admit small flaws, downplay your successes, and occasionally laugh at yourself. People relate to imperfection, not invincibility. Never flaunt your wealth or power. The more you show off, the more you remind people of what they lack. Instead, blend in. Appear as one of them. Defer to others publicly. Let people feel important. If you always seem in control, others will look for ways to humble you. Frame your success as a burden. If you act like success has brought you more stress than joy, people will sympathize instead of resent you. Give people small wins. Let others have victories too. If you always dominate, they'll start rooting for your downfall. Control the narrative. If you make success look effortless, people will resent you. But if they believe you struggled and sacrificed, they'll respect you instead. But even if you do everything right, some people will still envy you. So, what do? Read the warning signs. Watch for sarcastic remarks, backhanded compliments, or subtle undermining. Use envy as motivation. If people resent you, it means you're doing something right. Just be careful. It's a silent assassin. Know when to walk away. If envy turns into outright hostility, sometimes the best move is to leave before it escalates. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aim for. In victory, learn when to stop. In 1812, Napoleon Bonaparte stood at the height of his power. He had conquered much of Europe, but it wasn't enough. Instead of consolidating his empire, he pushed forward, invading Russia with over 600,000 troops, expecting a swift victory. At first, he succeeded, but as he advanced deeper, the brutal Russian winter and scorched earth tactics left his army starving and exposed. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. His once mighty force was shattered, and his reign began to crumble. His downfall wasn't caused by failure, but by victory that made him reckless. In the realm of power, you must be guided by reason. Letting emotions guide your moves is a fatal mistake, and nothing stirs emotions more than victory. Success is intoxicating. It clouds your judgment, breeds overconfidence, and tempts you to keep pushing past your original goal. But this is when you're most vulnerable. The belief that success naturally leads to more success is a trap. You believe that momentum will carry you forward, but momentum is an illusion. What worked before won't always work again. Circumstances change, and if you fail to adapt, you will fall. Ironically, good luck can be more dangerous than bad luck. When things go wrong, you're forced to plan, strategize, and stay cautious. But when everything goes right, you stop questioning, stop adapting, and start believing your success is entirely your own doing. That's when fortune shifts and you're caught off guard. Therefore, when victory comes, don't let it blind you. To turn victory into lasting power, follow these principles. Set a clear goal. Then stop. Before you act, define your target. Once you reach it, resist the urge to keep going just because you can. Acknowledge the role of luck. Some of your success was strategy, but some was circumstance. Don't assume the same moves will work every time. Consolidate your power. Before expanding further, strengthen what you've already gained. A shaky foundation collapses under its own weight. Beware of the crowd. After a win, people around you may push you to go further, take bigger risks, chase endless victories. But their excitement is not strategy. Don't let others dictate your next move. Be merciless, but precise. When you defeat an enemy, make sure they can't rise against you. But don't confuse calculated action with reckless aggression. Picking unnecessary fights creates new enemies. Stay cautious, not hesitant. Caution means thinking before acting. It doesn't mean freezing in fear. Move strategically, not emotionally. Forget the myth of momentum. Success isn't automatic. You must actively create it by adapting, adjusting, and staying aware. Don't let victory change you. Success can make you emotional, arrogant, or blind to risks. Stay disciplined, stay sharp. Law 48. Assume formlessness. Bruce Lee famously said, "Be like water." He believed that the most powerful fighters weren't those with rigid techniques, but those who could adapt to any situation. His philosophy wasn't just about martial arts. It was about life. The moment you become rigid, you become vulnerable. But if you stay fluid, adjusting to every challenge, you remain untouchable. History proves one thing. Rigidity leads to downfall. The moment you adopt a fixed shape, you become predictable. And what's predictable can be attacked, outmaneuvered, and defeated. The most powerful people, organizations, and empires didn't survive by staying the same. They adapted. They reinvented themselves, shifted strategies, and made it impossible for their enemies to pin them down. Formlessness is power. Here's how to achieve it. Take nothing personally. Stay unshakable. The first rule of formlessness is emotional control. The moment you react emotionally, you expose your weaknesses, giving enemies something to strike. Like water, let attacks slide off you. Bow if necessary, retreat if needed, then reappear in a new form, stronger than before. The dangers of rigidity, why stagnation leads to defeat. Fixed systems, beliefs, and strategies can feel safe, but they are traps. Businesses that refuse to innovate collapse. Empires that resist change fall apart. Leaders who stick to old strategies get outmaneuvered. When IBM dominated computing in the mid-20th century, it focused solely on mainframes. But when personal computers emerged, IBM resisted the shift, giving rise to Microsoft and Apple. By the time IBM adapted, it had already lost its dominance. The world is always shifting. If you refuse to change, you will be left behind. But if you remain flexible, you will control the game. Be like vapor, unpredictable and elusive. Your greatest weapon is unpredictability. The moment your enemy thinks they understand you, change. A formless opponent is exhausting to fight. The more they try to hit you, the more they miss. Make them waste their energy chasing shadows, and when they are tired, strike with precision. The illusion of control. Why stability is a lie. Most people crave stability. They think if they create enough structure, rules, and routines, they'll be safe. But the truth is, nothing in life is stable. Markets crash, alliances break, plans fail. Those who cling to control will always be caught off guard. But those who accept uncertainty move with the chaos instead of resisting it. Formlessness is power, but only if you use it correctly. Many people misunderstand this strategy and fall into dangerous traps. If you don't apply it wisely, you risk becoming weak instead of untouchable. To master this law, follow these key principles. Stay fluid. The less defined you are, the harder it is for others to control you. Take nothing personally. Reacting emotionally exposes your weaknesses. Stay unreadable. Confuse your enemies. Shift tactics constantly, making it impossible for anyone to pin you down. Avoid rigid systems. Routine is useful, but don't let it trap you. Be ready to abandon what no longer serves you. Disappear when necessary. Sometimes the best move is to vanish, giving your enemies nothing to attack. Strike with precision. When you do take form, do so strategically. Hit fast, hard, and with purpose. But beware, there are mistakes that can destroy you. Defensiveness is weakness. If you react emotionally, you expose your vulnerabilities, allowing enemies to keep attacking the same weak spots. Formlessness is not passivity. It's a strategy, not an excuse to drift aimlessly. Stay in control, always keeping your long-term goals in mind. The key to power is movement, not position. Control the game by remaining ungraspable, ever-changing, and always one step ahead.